Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook, American Comics. Fishing all over the world, starting as Homelander. Chapter 91. For new company hardware equipment. Chu Mu always adheres to the concept of buying the best. All the test equipment that needs to be used are the most advanced and sophisticated. This is why many scientists readily agreed to change jobs. These scientists neither can refuse the temptation of advanced equipment. You don't need to pay liquidated damages yourself. You can get better treatment, and you can also play with the most advanced machines. Is there anything more attractive to scientists than this? No, many scientists came over. They even introduced their friends to protect them. Did you see this high-tech microscope, which allows people to easily identify atoms and measure the morphological changes of atoms? It is the most advanced experimental instrument in the world, and there is nothing better than this. Persuasive words. No, at least not for scientists. A powerful professor at Harvard University also joined the ranks of the umbrella company under the temptation of high salary and the evolved version of super soldier serum. And on the day after signing the agreement and seeing the contents of the project, he called many of his disciples over and bluntly said that this would be research that would change the world. Have to say, the emergence of protective umbrellas. It caused an uproar in Marvel's scientific community. At the same time, such movement, naturally, it also attracted the attention of S.H.I.E.L.D. After all, it was a gimmick of a super soldier serum, and it also said it was an evolutionary upgrade. As a consultant who can take care of even the smallest things, he would never give up investigating the umbrella company. Especially after investigating that this is the new company of 057, Chu Mu, S.H.I.E.L.D. became even more interested. It's just that this company, Chu Mu, doesn't intend to give S.H.I.E.L.D. the slightest chance. After all, the new company is no better than a newspaper company. There are too many things that can arouse covetousness. Chu Mu does not want to be forced to destroy the entire S.H.I.E.L.D. In that case, how can his newspaper use cheap labor to achieve work efficiency that even elites cannot achieve? Therefore, Jin, who was still killing everyone in Hell's Kitchen and killing the cyborgs for revenge, was dragged by Chu Mu to the new company to be hired as a security captain and part-time personnel director. This guy now has a keen sense of smell and can easily identify applicants. Is it a rat? These are all abilities developed in the world of Kexue. There are many agents sent by S.H.I.E.L.D., and Shensha is in his hands. How is this going? Nick Fury found that the agents he sent out, not even the cooks and cleaners, were able to penetrate into Chu Mu's new company. He couldn't help but doubt the ability of his agent. Chu Mu, isn't it easy to fool? Why this new company? S.H.I.E.L.D. can't even place a single person in. Intuition tells Nick Fury that Chu Mu's new company may have something that requires extremely careful research. I don't want another green thing. Nick Fury somewhat wanted to get involved in Chu Mu's new company to confirm the degree of danger, but he did not dare to take strong measures against Chu Mu, who was suspected of being invincible. Therefore, tell our people to improve their abilities. Whether it's sweeping the floor, cooking, or even cleaning the sewers, they have to train to the highest level. Nick Fury can only hope that the agents will use ability to impress the umbrella. He probably never dreamed of it. There is a strange group of people in this world who can catch agents by just relying on their smell. This is the super ability that can only be cultivated in the world of Kexue. Osborne Industrial Headquarters, Cross-Species Genetics Research Laboratory. My experimental results began to work. I used lizard DNA to help this white mouse, and its legs were regenerated in a short period of time. Kurt Connors is still just an ordinary old man without the ability to transform into a lizard man. His experimental project has achieved huge amounts of results. Therefore, now he is introducing the situation to the senior management of the group. Not a single scientist. He can remain calm after his experiment has achieved results, and the same is true for Kurt Connors, who is now in a state of extreme excitement. Therefore, too immersed in showing off his achievements, Kurt Connors ignored the Indian in front of him and treated him with an unprecedented coldness. Thanks to that kid Peter Parker, my decay algorithm was successful. You must sign that kid with ability. Kurt Connors is still working on Little Spider-Man. I don't know. The Indian in front of him was sneering in his heart. It's a miracle that you did succeed, which is great. The Indian walked to the table and looked at the mouse calmly. He is Norman Osborn's agent in Osborne Industries, and it is through him that Norman Osborne, who is seriously ill, controls the company remotely. It can be said, in a sense, this Indian is the incarnation of Norman and has great power. After all, most of the group's shares are still in the hands of the Osborne family. The board of directors cannot affect Osborne's decision at all, nor can it protest against this Indian's decision. Send a message. There are no miracles. Science is a process of discovery and verification. Everything is the result of hard work. We are still some distance away from real success. However, I believe this distance is not too far. Curt Connors does not want to advocate any miracles. He believes that hard work will pay off. Mr. Osborne doesn't have time to wait for you to move forward step by step. Suddenly, the Indian interrupted Curt Connors. There's something a little weird about his attitude. This is already a great progress. We will soon be able to conduct experiments on primates, and there is a high probability of success by then. Curt Connors sounded a little excited. What I mean is that you should hurry up and conduct human experiments. After all, Mr. Osborne's time is running out. The Indian stared at Curt Connors in front of him and spoke forcefully. Whether he can wait or not, he has to wait. There is no shortcut in scientific research, unless he wants to be a guinea pig. Curt Connors has a very low emotional intelligence, which makes him an outlier among scientists. After all, people with high IQs generally don't have very low emotional intelligence. If you feel disliked by a scientist, maybe he just doesn't feel the need to be with you. Just put more thought into it. You mean to say that Mr. Osborne spent money to hire you, but you couldn't repay him, and you still plan to let him wait for death? The Indian's tone became unkind. I didn't mean that. I was just saying that this serum is only suitable for mice. It may even be suitable for only this mouse. Human genes are more complex and more difficult to adapt. This takes time to study, Osborne. Sir, all you can do is wait. All right. Curt Connors still had the same tone. The Indian's eyes narrowed slightly. Curt Connors. A voice that was weak but full of meaning suddenly sounded. This sound, not from the Indians, but from the speakers mounted on the ceiling. Mr. Osborne. Curt Connors was a little confused. He subconsciously raised his head and saw the loudspeakers and monitoring equipment on the ceiling. Obviously, Norman Osborne is monitoring the situation here. Richard is like this, and you are like this too. Do you all think I deserve to die? The voice from the loudspeaker was filled with angry resentment. Even if this is a dying person, when he speaks, he is still breathing heavily and making the sound of a ventilator. But after all, he has been in a high position for a long time, so he naturally carries a terrifying majesty and a very strong murderous intention. You gave me hope, and then brutally shattered that hope, betrayed my trust in you, and wasted the funds I provided you. Why can Richard's research results be hidden by him? The same is true for you now. You also plan to run away with this research, right? Norman Osborne's voice was filled with maddening resentment. What, sir? I don't have one. Curt Connors panicked subconsciously. He wanted to explain, but the voice on the loudspeaker didn't want to hear his explanation. Don't cheat. I don't like you liars. I already know. I know that the company that popped up recently is contacting you. Are you planning to be like Richard and disappear with the research results that should belong to me? You must be thinking so too. Extremely paranoid words. It was played from the loudspeaker. Norman Osborne was roaring. After roaring for a long time, perhaps all his strength was exhausted, and he began to gasp for breath again. Throughout the laboratory, only the sound from the loudspeaker could be heard. The Indian stood there with a cold expression and did not say a word, while Curt Connors began to deny it with an innocent face. I did receive an invitation from that company, but I have no plans to leave. After all, my experiments here are about to bear fruit. Although it is said that they have an improved version of the super soldier serum, I don't believe such rumors. After all, the super soldier serum has not been conquered yet. I also checked and found that the boss of this company is just a journalist. He has no professional qualities in this area. Besides, I'm used to staying at Osborne Industries. Whether it's out of personal feelings or considerations about my future, I can't possibly choose to change jobs. Curt Connors is telling the truth. This is also his true inner thought. Only, Norman Osborne, who has been lying in bed for many years and has already suffered a betrayal, has become suspicious and vicious, but he does not believe a single punctuation mark. Haha, Richard said the same thing back then, you, are all the same kind of people. Norman Osborn's voice rang again. Extremely cold. Didn't he say that he wanted me to be a guinea pig? Let's just conduct human experiments now. Since he wants me to die, let him replace me. This was clearly an order given to the Indians. The voice was hoarse and cruel. Yes, boss. The Indians readily accepted such instructions. No, you can't do this. Curt Connors's complexion became extremely pale. He looked at the Indian in front of him in disbelief. He did not expect such a change at all. Chairman Norman, they actually want to use him for human experiments. No, after all, Curt Connors is just a scientist with a weak body. He is no match for the Indians with strong fighting skills and instincts. Although he tried his best to resist, he was decisively overthrown by the Indians. Several teeth were knocked out. Ha 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 ha, look at you like this. It's just for practical use. Let's test your research results to see if even missing teeth can be repaired. Among the loudspeakers, Norman Osborn's voice is manic and neurotic. The Indian held down Curt Connors expressionlessly, picked up the medicine syringe on the table next to him, and pushed a whole tube of lizard medicine into Curt Connors' body. Ah! Curt Connors let out a tragic roar. His whole body was bent like a crayfish, and he was twitching wildly on the floor in great pain. At the moment, Curt Connors is desperate. He knows better than anyone else how terrifying this potion is, and the pain of genetic collapse may be the best result. To know, among those experiments that failed. But there are many extremely terrifying mutations. Curt Connors simply can't imagine how terrible such a mutation would be if it happened to humans. Not just you, but also the young man who dares to poach me and want to cut off my way of life. He will also be captured by me soon to accompany you. You all have to be my guinea pigs. Norman Osborn's voice became extremely sharp. Curt Connors couldn't hear it. His will fell into darkness. His body was changing crazily, and pieces of scales began to appear on his body surface. Osborne Industries at night. A most criminal experiment is taking place. Watching his top scientists transform from human beings into lizard monsters, even the cold-blooded Indian agents seemed a little unstable. However, Norman Osborne is as cold as ever. Failed research. I invested so much money. He only came up with such a mess for me. His voice was filled with an angry roar. Unwilling to fail in his research, he let his armed men enter the laboratory. Put the unconscious lizard man into a cage and turn him into a monster. Failed research can provide a lot of data after all. For a person who attempts to betray Osborne Industries, Norman Osborne only wants to use this person's last remaining value before death. You did a good job. Go back and rest today. I will reward you well. On the loudspeaker, Norman Osborne spoke to the Indians. The Indian bowed slightly to the monitor with a respectful expression. Immediately, walked out of the laboratory. On the other side of the monitor, Norman was supposed to be seriously ill in bed. At the moment, he was not as weak as many people imagined. He sat in front of the monitor with a gloomy expression. His complexion looks really good, and he doesn't look like he's about to die as rumored outside at all. In fact, Norman Osborne does not live long. This is actually just a reflection of his body. Norman Osborne knows this very well. Just like many old people who know that their time is running out before they die, Northern also realized that his body was approaching its limit. This is why he is so anxious for Curt Connors' experiment to succeed. It's just a shame. Curt Connors used his life to prove that the experimental results were unreliable. Looking at Curt Connors turning into a monster on the surveillance equipment, Norman Osborne's expression was very ugly. He knew that he couldn't wait any longer. In this situation, we can only try the last hope. As a businessman, Norman Osborne definitely understands that you cannot put all your eggs in one basket. Therefore, in addition to Curt Connors' potion research, he also invested in another potion research, which is the imitation of the super soldier serum. Performance enhancer. This is also an immature technology product. But compared to the lizard potion, the side effects of becoming just a little bit crazier were not unacceptable to Nor Osborne. He had no other choice. I can't just die like this. The desire for life made Norman Osborne tremblingly take out the tube of physical enhancement pills that he had brought over a long time ago. He was also a ruthless person. After making up his mind, he just gritted his teeth and injected an injection into his own meridians. Visible to the naked eye, Norman Osborn, who was originally old and frail, soon turned into a strong middle-aged man after this medicine took effect. Flesh, muscles, bones, nerves, and even spirit, all strengthened. Norman Osborn felt a burst of blissful joy. How to say, Marvel Universe, reverse engineering is hellishly difficult. But casually tinkering with a strengthening agent, it is rare to encounter the kind of failure zone that normally kills people. They can all have strange effects and turn people into monsters, just like the situation with Norman Osborn now. His appearance did not change into a monster. In fact, it is already an extremely rare situation. Better than ever. Healthy body. Norman Osborn felt the changes in himself, and his heart was filled with excitement and joy. He has almost forgotten how to write the word, health. The family's genetic disease has already tortured this business prodigy to a state of disgrace. And now, Norman Osborn, who originally needed crutches to sit up with difficulty, directly gained a physical fitness comparable to Captain America. No, perhaps it's not just to the level of Captain America. Judging from his ability to wrestle with Spider-Man, the effect of the physical enhancer may have exceeded that of the super soldier serum. Definitely, it is not that we have surpassed it in all aspects, but that it has surpassed it in some aspects and has not yet reached it in some aspects. As everyone knows, Captain America originally did not have superpowers and was a thin young man. The super soldier serum stimulated his human body's potential and transformed it into a perfect posture. Therefore, Captain America has a high degree of intelligence, strength, agility, acuity, and physique that are far beyond the reach of ordinary people. His strength, senses, reaction ability and other physical functions have reached the limit of potential that humans can achieve. His ability to withstand physical damage is also stronger than that of ordinary people. For example, gunshot wounds to him are like scratches on the skin of ordinary people. In addition, Captain America also has extraordinary self-healing ability. Although not up to Chu Mu's level, it still allows him to repair most injuries within a few days. The cell activity in the body also prevents Captain America from feeling tired. He has the capacity to drink nearly 1,000 glasses without getting drunk, and he can drink spirits as easily as water. He is also immune to most diseases, and the serum also allows him to delay aging. The serum strengthened his metabolic function and could completely metabolize lactic acid and other fatigue-causing substances in the muscles. This gave him endurance that normal people could never imagine, and he was able to run a mile in less than 1 minute, journey etc. The top speed can reach 96 kilometers per hour, which is comparable to a humanoid sports car. These are Captain America's abilities. His strength is probably 1 or 2 tons. And what about Green Goblin? Green Goblin can wrestle with Spider-Man, and has at least about 10 tons of power, which is obviously far beyond the level of Captain America at this point. To know, before injecting medication. As an old man who is about to die, Norman Osborn's physical fitness and physical ability are not much stronger than Steve's situation. It can be said that the two of them are evenly matched. So, the two people can be regarded as similar control groups to verify the effects of the two serums. The strengths they display are different, which is obviously different human body strengthening agents and can bring different degrees of strengthening to humans. Same as Captain America, Green Goblin also has the abilities of super speed, super reaction, and super endurance. It's just that the performance in this aspect is obviously not as good as Captain America. Captain America can dodge bullets. Green Goblin cannot. Captain America's body skin is extremely tough, but Green Goblin's body skin is only slightly tougher than ordinary people. Bullets can also penetrate Green Goblin's body. He just has more power than Captain America. This is why Green Goblin arms himself with armor. Green Goblin usually wears green armor, a devil helmet with yellow eyes, and drives a vertical thrust flight machine, the Devil Glider. It's not just because he likes to look cool. But without these high-tech assistants, his actual combat ability is not even as good as Captain America. After all, they are just soldiers with empty strength and insufficient defense. And, as a capitalist who has been in a high position for many years, it is obviously impossible to be like Captain America, who has excellent fighting skills in the entire Marvel Earth. You know, the reason why Captain America can be regarded as a 50-50 player must be different from ordinary people. Steve Rogers' reflexes and sensory organs are very sharp, which allows him to learn various martial arts without any hindrance. Boxing, jiu-jitsu, aikido, judo. Steve is really talented in learning fighting. In actual combat, depending on the tactical needs, he can arbitrarily combine them into a highly refined fighting style. Such ability, obviously something Norman Osborn doesn't have. He also has no intention of learning to fight. The two of them have different mentality and thoughts after becoming superhumans. Definitely, as a control group, or should we pay more attention to the strengthening agent of these two people's gaze? Two strengthening agents, each has its own advantages and disadvantages, but no matter what, the Green Goblin potion is definitely the closest to a successful imitation. If there are no side effects, it might actually become a strengthening potion that can produce super soldiers in batches. Curt Connors, and the Chu Mu, they all have to pay for what they have done. Norman Osborn, who was already extremely vicious, looked even more vicious at the moment. However, he didn't notice this change. Norman Osborn didn't know that the evil desires in his heart had actually increased to a great extent under the influence of the strengthening agent. How to say? Green Goblin serum side effects. Maybe it wasn't the birth of a personality called Green Goblin. Instead, it will infinitely amplify the evil thoughts that the user has in his heart, thus making the user a patient with split personality. Just like the Hulk's ability to infinitely amplify his anger, both super soldier serums were reversely researched, and their side effects are surprisingly similar to some extent. It's just that one amplifies evil thoughts, and the other amplifies anger. Definitely, there is a deeper reason for the birth of the Hulk, which is why the Hulk has become so strong. Although they are all green, the Green Goblin is clearly not on the level of the Hulk, not by a long shot. Definitely, compared to Captain America, Green Goblin's body strengthening level is definitely stronger. Kill them, kill them. After Norman Osborn stood up, he walked in front of the mirror and seemed to see himself whispering in the mirror. He still didn't notice anything unusual. Instead, he nodded and agreed in a low voice. Norman Osborn had not been a good person since he was a child. Therefore, all kinds of evil thoughts emerged in his heart. He himself did not realize that this was something is wrong. This situation of myself talking to him in the mirror has also happened before. It's just that it's a little more intense now. Norman Osborn only regarded it as the reason why he had regained his youth and health. Anyone who betrays me should be killed by me. They betray my trust and my expectations of them. Outside the house, thunder and lightning flashed. Norman Osborn's expression became more sinister. His smile in the mirror became even weirder, as if some demon was born at this moment. Chu Mu woke up from a nap. He came here for free fishing out of habit, but he had the same unlucky luck as before and didn't catch anything helpful to him. I've almost got a 3-piece Starlight set. Chu Mu threw away Starlight's booby underwear and was about to go to his umbrella company to see which scientists would join his family today. However, but I never thought about it. The newspaper's secretary, Hill agent, called while Chu Mu was washing up, saying that Mr. Osborn of Osborn Industries wanted to make an appointment with him to discuss the transfer of Dr. Curt Connors. Boss, have you got any new hobbies? Why are you looking for a PhD in biology? Hill agent also wanted to push out some information. Pity, Chu Mu didn't give her a chance at all. It's just some small hobbies, just like Tony Stark now likes to study armors. Rich people in the new era should have their own hobbies. Chu Mu responded casually and hung up the Hill agent's communication. Hill agent did not dare to continue calling and harassing Chu Mu. After all, that whole Crossbones thing happened. Nowadays, the relationship between S.H.I.E.L.D. and Chu Mu is somewhat subtle. These agents, I still don't feel at ease in my heart. Especially the higher the level of the agent, the more they know, and the more they respect Chu Mu. Interesting, that old guy Norman Osborn wants to use Dr. Lizard to catch my fish. Chu Mu definitely realized that this invitation was abnormal. Norman Osborn is not a broad-minded old man. Ability to transform into Green Goblin. One can imagine what a selfish guy this is. Chu Mu knows a past event that many people don't know, that is, when Green Goblin was a child, Norman Osborn's father was the great entrepreneur Amberson Osborn. An improper policy led to this entrepreneur's severe decline in the company's competitiveness. Amidst the voices of criticism from everyone, the financial crisis occurred in the family, which put great pressure on Amberson. Although Norman, who was still young at the time, did not say anything, he saw it and remembered it in his heart, so when he grew up, he took revenge on all the boards. Can normal people hold grudges for so long? Obviously not. Also, when Norman was young, one day, Norman's parents couldn't find the dog at home, so they asked Norman where the dog had gone. Norman calmly said that he had killed the dog with his own hands a few days ago. His parents were horrified when they heard the answer and thought that Norman might have a mental problem. Think about it, you can be so scary and cold-blooded when you were a child, and you will definitely become more and more serious when you grow up. After all, this is a person who grew up in the soil of a lawless plutocrat. Therefore, let alone Dr. Lizard's research, it affects the entire Osborne family. Life and death. Even if it's just a humble researcher. As a qualified businessman, Norman Osborne would never let someone go easily with a smile. Maybe, he would also hold a grudge against Chu Mu on the grounds that Chu Mu was eyeing his property, and then wait for the opportunity, planning to put Chu Mu into a place of no return. Norman Osborne is such an insidious guy and has little to do with the Green Goblin serum. Therefore, Chu Mu knew very well that the old man Green Goblin invited him to Osborne Industry this time, maybe because he wanted to have a hangman banquet. He didn't know. There might be some plot in it. I want to see what kind of medicine this guy is selling in his gourd. Quote. Chu Mu was not afraid of this, and even felt a little hopeful. One thing to say, he also has some interest in the human strengthening agent injected by Green Goblin, a kind of agent that can create powerful super soldiers. Maybe it also works for your own umbrella company. Even if he has a more powerful number 5 compound, no one will dislike the fact that his company has many products. There is no guarantee that this medicine will inspire the research of number 5 compound. Think of this. Chu Mu also doesn't have hesitation. He directly called his driver, angered Johnny, and asked Johnny to drive his Rolls-Royce and drove all the way into New York City. Boss, I have said many times that I am a motorcycle rider, a professional one. Didn't you see the Guinness World Record I broke a few days ago? Johnny, as always, has a strong resentment against becoming a driver. However, Chu Mu believes that he can get used to it even if he complains. With your current physical fitness, what's the difference between participating in a competition like that and cheating? Chu Mu raised an eyebrow and joked. This can't be considered cheating. I can only say that I have a slight advantage, mainly relying on my personal motorcycle skills. Johnny had a sneer on his face. He also stopped beeping. He quickly drove Chu Mu's luxury car to find a parking space. As for Chu Mu, he naturally walked straight into the Osborne Industrial Building. Seeing a man with extraordinary clothes, impressive temperament and handsome appearance walking in, the front desk staff naturally did not dare to neglect him. Sir, who are you looking for? The girls at the front desk are very respectful. They need to be discerning in this industry to know which people have extraordinary status at a glance. I have an appointment with Mr. Osborne. Chu Mu revealed his identity, and the front desk staff quickly checked the situation and made a call to the chairman's office. After confirming that Mr. Osborne was already waiting, the girl at the platform quickly pointed out where Chu Mu should go to take the elevator. Probably because Chu Mu's appearance is so outstanding. And at first glance, it seems that she is an extraordinary person. The voice of the girl at the front desk is so sweet. That's right, it's that kind of deadbeat sound. Even after Chu Mu left, she and her colleagues kept their eyes on Chu Mu's back for a long time, with expressions of regret and regret. The girls at the front desk were all a little unwilling to accept that they were unable to attract Chu Mu's attention and hooked up with such a rich and handsome man. If I could be on the list of such a man, I would not only save 20 years of hard work, but also be held in his arms. I wouldn't be so happy. The girl who received Chu Mu was a nymphomaniac. Yes, Mr. Norman, who has never come to work, dragged his sick body to work for the first time, maybe just to meet this young man. It is conceivable that this is a person with a high status that even Mr. Norman has to pay attention to. You're a rich man who wants to meet me even though he's holding on to his health. Another girl also echoed, in the midst of their discussion. Chu Mu successfully got on the elevator and went straight to the top floor of the Osborne Group, the Osborne building, which was about the same size as Chu Mu's umbrella company today. They are all the tallest buildings in New York. When the elevator reached the top floor and opened, an Indian was already waiting outside the elevator. "This way please." The Indians respectfully led Chu Mu to a gate. "Sir, the chairman is waiting for you inside. He has been waiting for a while." Finished. The Indians retreated. Chu Mu looked at the Indian's back with a playful expression. He definitely knew that this Indian was the agent who helped the Kings to swear. "I don't know when Norman Osborn will hide him. This guy's life and death has nothing to do with me." Chu Mu reached out and pushed open the door. When he walked in, he saw a middle-aged man with gray hair who looked a little frail. This person is the chairman of Osborne Industries, Norman Osborn. At the moment, he was reading a copy of the New York Times at his desk. The posture is quite decent. "You are here. I have been reading your newspaper. It is authoritative and professional. I have to say that you are more suitable for this industry than your grandfather." Norman Osborn pretended to raise his head and said with emotion, "How young and energetic, it reminds me of what I looked like back then." This guy showed a melancholy expression. "It's like regretting the lost youth and lost vitality. How else to say it? Only the actors with the worst acting skills in the great free country will go to Hollywood. Whether they are politicians or entrepreneurs, they are all actors with Oscar-level acting skills." If Chu Mu hadn't seen Norman Osborn's extremely healthy body through his supervision, he might have really believed in Norman Osborn. "With all due respect, you may not have had the energy like me back then." Chu Mu did not give Norman an overly favorable attitude. Because after seeing the situation with Norman Osborn, he already knew that Norman Osborn in front of him had already taken the shape of Green Goblin. For this kind of guy, no need to give a good attitude at all. The other party won't care anyway. Similarly, you have the same arrogance as me. A trace of anger flashed across Norman Osborn's eyes, but he still smiled amiably on the surface. He seemed to be curious or testing. "Can you tell me why you, who have always been rooted in the media industry, want to get involved in the field of biological research?" This is to know why Chu Mu established the umbrella. Isn't this simple? Times have definitely changed. Biological research will inevitably become mainstream. Everyone wants to replicate the miracle of the super soldier serum. Chu Mu shrugged, with an unabashed look, and his eyes began to look a little playful. The corners of his mouth were also slightly raised. After all, everyone knows how powerful the super soldier serum is, especially people like you who have experienced it. They should understand it. Chu Mu's voice was a bit sad. "Am I right, Mr. Norman?" As soon as these words came out, the originally kind smile on Norman Osborn's face suddenly became a little stiff. There was another hint of confusion and panic in his eyes. No one should know about the imitation of his super soldier serum injected last night, but he didn't even tell his own son. Could it be? Did the other party install surveillance cameras in his home? Something is wrong with the atmosphere. Before Norman Osborn could react, the next moment Chu Mu's words made him so frightened that he almost jumped up from his chair. "No. Maybe I should call you." Chu Mu seemed to suddenly think of something, the hot news in the New York Times on his desk. Mr. Green Goblin. On the page where Chu Mu shrinks his finger, it is clearly visible. There is a photo of a hideous figure wearing armor and riding a flight machine wreaking havoc in the city. This was last night, the terrorist attack that just happened. Otherwise, he is an old fox. Although he saw Chu Mu's determined eyes and was indeed caught off guard by Chu Mu, Norman Osborn was only panicked for a short while. He quickly regained his composure. "Sorry, you may have some misunderstandings about me. I am just an old man who is about to die, but I am not a terrorist with the ability to attack the city." Norman Osborn showed a clear conscience. At the right time, he showed some doubts and confusion about seeing the benefits. "The Green Goblin you're talking about, are you referring to the guy who wreaked havoc in the city last night, destroying everything like a madman?" Norman Osborn got so angry that he even cursed himself. Figure in the photo. In fact, it is indeed the devil he incarnates. Last night, after being injected with a body-strengthening agent, Norman Osborn felt more energetic than ever before, so he wanted to do something to show his vitality. I don't know what he thinks, but Norman Osborn feels that nothing can prove his vitality better than enjoying the fear of the citizens. Then, Norman Osborn presented the company's research results. Transformed into a green goblin, bringing a terror to the city at night. In fact, after waking up this morning, Norman Osborn still felt something was wrong. Only, soon he was regained control by the emotion of enjoying vitality and fear. When he was watching the news just now, he was actually admiring his own masterpiece. Norman Osborn was full of confidence. I feel that my identity cannot be exposed, and I really enjoy the pleasure of watching my masterpiece in front of others. However, but he never expected the effort of a few sentences. The young man in front of him actually revealed his old background. The evil ways are simply too evil. Norman Osborn felt baffled for a while. Definitely, although I couldn't figure out how Chu Mu discovered it, this did not affect Norman Osborn's quibbles at all. At the same time, the murderous intention in his heart also emerged. Stop pretending. You and I both know that there is no point in pretending. Chu Mu could definitely feel Norman Osborn's murderous intention clearly. Even though this guy pretended to be as kind as ever, Chu Mu was still clearly aware of Norman Osborn's hypocrisy. Not because of Homelander's power. It's the Heaven's Gate tattoo on the back of Chu Mu's hand, and the power in it has such a small function. Oh, kid, you have indeed misunderstood. Why do you think I am that kind of evil monster? Such a terrorist must be called a monster. Look at me. Look, do I still have that kind of energy? Norman Osborn looked innocent. He slowly stood up, sighed heavily, and continued to speak with a bit of self-pity. As the leader of the media, you should also know my situation. You know that our Osborn family is a people abandoned by God. We are born with extremely serious genetic diseases. Although I am only a middle-aged man now, I am already weaker than most old people. While talking, Norman Osborn had walked up to a huge amount of wall clock. He looked up at the clock. The expression is lamenting. It's like regretting that there isn't much time left. Osborn, I don't want to play a ridiculous game of guessing who I am with you here. You don't need to waste my time like this. Chu Mu glanced at the wall clock casually. His X-ray eyes had already seen the weirdness inside the wall clock, but he did not take any action. I'm here to find you. There are only two things, that is about the contract of Dr. Kurt Connors, and all the biochemical research information of Osborn Industries. The reason for coming. The other party has no good intentions. FTB. In fact, it's pretty much the same. Oh, what price are you willing to pay for this? Norman Osborn did not turn his head, he just looked up at the hands of the wall clock. The voice sounded gradually getting colder. Price? No, I'm not negotiating a deal with you. Chu Mu's tone was calm, as if he didn't notice Norman Osborn's emotional changes. Can you interpret my request as an order? Chu Mu took a step forward, his tone was relaxed, but his attitude was still very arrogant. Even arrogant to the point of being unreasonable. What else do the ancestors need to reason about? Chu Mu doesn't need to have the slightest concern about this kind of guy who is already planning evil things. Remember, it's all the research data, including your human research data, and the strengthening agent you secretly hold in your hand. Chu Mu's voice was tough. This made Norman Osborn feel more and more angry, and his emotions became more and more difficult to control. Finally, Norman Osborn could not suppress the darkness in his heart. Who do you think you are? How dare you order me like this? Norman Osborn's voice suddenly became sharp, and the pitch also increased a lot. He suddenly turned around, his expression was extremely sinister, veins were popping out on his neck, and his voice was full of inexplicable anger and hatred. That's ridiculous. Do you think you can just take away the hard-earned research results of our Osborn Industries without paying a penny like the military did? This is probably referring to what he witnessed when he was a child. No, the situation is different now. No one has that qualification now. You have to pay the price for your words and deeds. Norman Osborn's voice grew angrier. Obviously. The Green Goblin potion is stimulating his spirit, and it will not only arouse the malice in his heart. You will also feel almost the same anger as the Hulk. Maybe you should take a cold bath to calm yourself down. Trust me, take care of the restless personality in you. This is for your sake. Chu Mu was not frightened by Norman Osborn's expression. Instead, he reminded Norman Osborn sincerely. Very sincere. His eyes were wide open, showing his pure nature. Ha ha ha, are you thinking about me again? Richard, the disgusting guy last night, and the people on the board of directors are all saying this. Norman Osborn's face was full of sneer. He BGBA looked at Chu Mu, his eyes became strange. Guess what happened to them now? It is estimated that this guy did not intend to wait for Chu Mu's answer. After the words fell, I saw Norman Osborn suddenly raising his hand, clenching it into a fist, and smashing it hard against the mechanism next to the wall clock that Chu Mu had long noticed. He looked like he was going to catch Chu Mu off guard. Under Chu Mu's calm gaze, he quickly rushed towards the desk. One thing to say, the words of a normal person. I guess I won't be able to react. But in fact, in Chu Mu's eyes, Norman Osborn's movements were simply slow. After yawning, he ran to the desk in front of him. It seems you made a wrong choice, Chu Mu whispered. But it was not heard by Norman Osborn, who was immersed in his own world. He thought Chu Mu didn't react at all. I saw, as Norman Osborn rushed in the direction of the desk. The work made a clicking sound at the same time, as if it was cut into two pieces. From the table, a tray was raised. I saw a streamlined flight machine with a bat shape slowly rising from the tray. There were multiple sharp barrels pointed at Chu Mu in front of it. I have to say that you did discover my identity, but you are obviously not smart enough. It is not a wise decision to provoke a strong man like me. Don't move, you will die. Norman Osborn pointed the flight machine at Chu Mu, setting it to fire whenever the opponent made a move, and he put on the armor in an orderly manner. See you soon. Norman Osborn appears in the form of Green Goblin. Chu Mu watched all this quietly, showing a slightly frustrated expression. Sure enough, my personality is still not suitable for persuading others to be kind. Chu Mu didn't listen to the advice at all and walked directly towards Norman Osborn. When the flight machine received the signal that Chu Mu was moving, it naturally turned on its firepower immediately, and the whistling bullets flew towards the forbidden animal like rain. Aj. All the bullets hit Chu Mu's body. Then, it was as if it had touched steel. After a string of sparks were spattered, they all fell to the ground without causing any harm to Chu Mu. Even Chu Mu's clothes were not damaged. Today's Chu Mu, even without equipped cards, still possesses many of Homelander's powers. As for why the clothes are not worn out, it is not because Chu Mu wears special clothes, but because Homelander actually also has a biological force field. Only, this biological force field can only be released close to the body. Just protect your clothes when it's the same day. Your clothes. Norman Osborn obviously didn't understand what a biological force field was, and he thought Chu Mu was wearing some high-tech equipment. Haha, I see. Is this what you rely on? Do you think you can declare war on me just by wearing a piece of high-tech clothing? Norman Osborn didn't feel panicked. He is very confident in his equipment and strength, and he is confident in his own judgment about Chu Mu. Your face is not covered. This is the price you have to pay for your underestimation and arrogance. Said. Norman Osborn aimed the barrel at Chu Mu's face. How to say, although the face also has strong defense, it is not afraid of this kind of tickling attack. But Chu Mu obviously still doesn't want to be slapped in the face. So, facing the bullets whizzing in again, he chose to dodge quickly, and this scene made Green Goblin firm in his previous judgment. A new misunderstanding arose. It seems that I understand again. No wonder you want my research information. You also injected the strengthening agent, right? Now it becomes interesting. Norman Osborn in the Green Goblin state looked at Chu Mu's speed and was able to dodge bullets. He thought Chu Mu might have also been injected with some kind of strengthening agent. This guy still didn't feel nervous. He had full confidence in his equipment. Although everyone is a superhuman injected with strengthening agent, he is fully armed and energetic, and the opponent only has one piece of clothing with good defense. Look at this guy dodging bullets with a nervous look on his face. It's obvious that the opponent's strengthening agent cannot make the opponent's body resist the power of bullets. Norman Osborn in Green Goblin state made this judgment and analysis in his mind. He was convinced. The advantage lies in him. Really, from Norman Osborn's perspective, his analysis is not wrong. After all, not everyone can figure out that Chu Mu dodges just because he doesn't like being slapped in the face. Since Chu Mu still needs to dodge bullets, Norman Osborn analyzed that Chu Mu is not physically strong enough, but this is a very logical idea. Coupled with the strengthening agent injected by Norman Osborn himself, it cannot resist bullets. He naturally felt that Chu Mu's situation should be similar to his own. After all current body strengthening agents are imitations of the original super soldier serum, and in Norman Osborn's opinion, the effects should be similar. Such a situation, Norman Osborn feels that everyone's hard power is similar. But he also has a lot of high-tech equipment, so naturally he won't take Chu Ji seriously. Just like we are all human beings, the soldiers of the third world country cannot defeat the soldiers of the great free country. Norman Osborn thinks the truth is similar. The advantage is mine. Norman Osborn was analyzing and judging in his mind. At the same time, facing Chu Mu's dodge. After he thought he had grasped Chu Mu's situation, he immediately let out Green Goblin's iconic evil smile, and using his equipment that could control the unmanned aircraft, he immediately operated the floating unmanned aircraft and rushed towards Chu Mu. The front end of the flight machine ejected several sharp blades with blood grooves upside down in the blink of an eye. I should say that you have misunderstood or are overthinking. Chu Mu's unhurried dodge looked like a dangerous risk to Green Goblin. The flight vehicle was dodged by Chu Mu and was nailed directly to the wall. Bricks and debris fell, and the tail of the flight vehicle continued to push forward with firepower. Do you only know how to hide? Norman Osborn's mood in the Green Goblin state is very extreme. He is extremely irritable and roars. Then he controlled the flight machine to break away from the wall and speed up towards Chu Mu. The flight machine stuck in the wall made huge amounts of roar. As the bricks and stones fell, it reversed and then continued driving. It's lightning fast. He rushed towards Chu Mu at an even more ferocious speed. I don't just know how to hide. After Chu Mu replied, he stopped as expected. He looked at the extremely ferocious flight machine rushing towards him, and just stretched out a hand casually. Immediately afterwards, under the disbelieving gaze of Norman Osborn in his Green Goblin state, he easily held the front end of the flight machine. I just want to see what level my Green Goblin experimental body is at. Chu Mu's expression was extremely calm. How can it be? Norman Osborn looked at the scene happening in front of him in disbelief. He just felt extremely dreamy. I couldn't help but exclaimed in surprise. What kind of international joke are you kidding me? Humans with mortal bodies can actually catch the high-speed Green Goblin flight. Besides, what is my Green Goblin subject? Did the other party already regard him as a trophy? Chu Mu's arrogance. It made Norman Osborn extremely angry. The negative emotions in his heart began to grow, but they had not yet reached the point where he completely lost his mind. At the moment, Norman Osborn's eyes looked at Chu Mu. In addition to resentment and hatred, there was also some indescribable solemnity. He realized that this opponent might be more difficult than imagined. He knew better than anyone how powerful the flight machine was, but now, no matter how he remotely controlled the flight machine to increase its propulsion, the boy in front of him actually held the flight machine tightly, making it unable to move at all. What a terrifying power this must have. Norman Osborn only found it a bit unimaginable. Some cowardice arose in his heart. However, it was soon replaced by more raging anger. Green Goblin's personality let him feel ashamed of his own cowardice. You should actually call me that. I want you to die. I want you to die. Norman Osborn went crazy, and the flight machine changed again under his control. Wow! Sharp blades popped out from both sides of the flight machine again, slashing at Chu Mu from the left and right directions, as if to cut off Chu Mu's head directly. Because this time he was only targeted at the neck, Chu Mu, whose expression remained unchanged, did not have any thoughts of dodge. After all, it was just the neck, not a slap in the face. Clang! The sharp blade cut out bursts of sparks at Chu Mu's neck, and then the high-strength steel broke directly. What? Norman Osborn, who was in the Green Goblin state, widened his eyes in shock. His face was full of horror. This person's body. This man's body is actually harder than steel. No wonder the bullet can't help the other party share it. Miscalculated. It's all wrong. What the other party relies on is not some high-tech clothing. But he originally had an unreasonably strong physical quality. Norman Osborn was not a real stupid pig after all. His stupidity is more the result of suppressed rationality. Therefore, seeing Chu Mu's performance, he reacted quickly. It's just, Man of Steel, this is a bit too exaggerated. It was difficult for Norman Osborn to understand that strengthening agents could transform people into such powerful beings. I don't believe you can guard against bombs. Huge amounts of stimulation. Norman Osborn somewhat overlooked that this was his own building and his own office. He directly controlled the flight machine and launched several bombs. Chu Mu, who was so close, had no time to react. Well, Chu Mu was too lazy to react. What's the difference between Osborn's bombs and firecrackers? Boom. Huge amounts of explosions. Most of the wall was smashed. Fortunately, this floor is the chairman's office area, and there are no other employees. Otherwise, it would have directly caused a huge amount of commotion. In the smoke, the fire hasn't gone out yet. Norman Osborn began to laugh triumphantly. I don't care how strong you are. Stupid guy, do you really think that with power you can do whatever you want? Wisdom is the most precious wealth of mankind. Norman Osborn thought he had won through wit. However, sorry, I feel that with power, you can really do whatever you want. Suddenly, Chu Mu's voice sounded again in the smoke, as calm as ever. What? Norman Osborn's pupils suddenly shrank. He was hit head-on by his bomb. There should be no chance of his opponent surviving. Even if a strengthening agent is injected, it is still a bomb. How can a mortal body withstand the terrifying power of a bomb? Norman Osborn had no emotion at all when he heard Chu Mu's voice. He had a bad premonition in his heart. Sure enough, after the smoke completely dissipated, an unscathed Chu Mu, still holding the aircraft and expressionless, appeared in front of Norman Osborn. Also, I think your plan is far from being called wisdom. Chu Mu seemed to be calmly stating something that had nothing to do with him. Definitely, maybe against other opponents, such as Spider-Man, your tricks may have a little effect. Chu Mu looked at Norman Osborn calmly, with contempt in his eyes. However, it is a pity that your opponent now is me. Every move you make, all your little actions, are actually under my watch. As for why I haven't taken any action, that's just because I want to see what you can do. I'm just too lazy to stop you because of your poor acting skills. Chu Mu sighed softly. Facts have also proven that your so-called conspiracy is worthless in the face of my absolute power. Instead, it makes me feel very disappointed. This is definitely a provocation. However, Norman Osborn in his Green Goblin state couldn't care less about being angry. He was still immersed in the shock that Chu Mu was unscathed. That was a very powerful bomb, and no one knew the power of that bomb better than him. Even reinforced concrete can be blown to pieces. Although it is not as good as a nuclear bomb, how can the human body, how can it prevent such damage? No, impossible. Oh, Norman Osborn exclaimed again. Such a violent explosion. Not only does the other party have nothing to do with it. Even the clothes on my body are still the same. What on earth is going on? It simply subverts cognition and Norman Osborn's understanding of science. Old man, you don't even know what is possible. Chu Mu stole someone's lines and then began to use force to crush the flight machine. Easy. It's like crushing a plastic toy. When the flight vehicle lost power and landed with sparks, another extremely hot ray shot out of Chu Mu's eyes. The wreckage of the aircraft on the ground turned into a pile of charcoal in an instant. Norman Osborn, who had witnessed the whole process, was dumbfounded. Not only is the strength of the body so perverted, but it can also emit lasers from its eyes. Are you kidding? None of the super soldier serum has such an effect. This moment, Norman Osborn only felt that he might have misjudged a certain situation. What kind of monster are you? Norman Osborn finally panicked. He roared in extreme horror and looked at Chu Mu as if he had seen something indescribable. The super soldier serum can't reach your level. Norman Osborn has definitely done a lot of research on the super soldier serum over the years. Because of this, he is well aware of Chu Mu's current performance. It was far beyond his understanding of the super soldier serum. His body is strong enough to withstand bombs, and his strength can even crush alloys. Even his eyes. Norman Osborn could not imagine how terrifyingly hot that ray was, which could burn a pile of alloys into debris in an instant. Why do you think I would use inferior things like body-strengthening agents? Chu Mu made a very puzzled expression. He stepped on the wreckage of the aircraft and began to walk towards Norman Osborn. At this moment, even wearing armor, Norman Osborn did not feel safe at all. He saw with his own eyes that the other party directly crushed the flight machine made of the same hard material. Norman Osborn had no doubt that the other party could also crush the armor on his body. The boy in front of me is simply too powerful to be human. What is pressure? At the moment, Norman Osborn felt the terrifying oppression on Chu Mu, suffocating him. Don't come over here. Norman Osborn only felt that every step of Chu Mu carried an oppressive force that made him tremble. He kept backing away and yelling in terror. Just as he retreated to the wall behind him, his whole body pressed against the wall, unable to retreat, he found that Chu Mu still had no intention of stopping approaching. Ever since I told you not to come over, Norman Osborn roared and pressed the switch on the wall very quickly. Then, he took out a laser sword that looked like one used by Jedi Knights from the secret door in the wall, aimed it at Chu Mu's neck, and slashed it directly. This time, Chu Mu hid slightly, let the laser sword hit his shoulder. It went in, but not completely. It got stuck on the bone of Chu Mu's shoulder. After all, Chu Mu's current physical fitness is still not as good as Homelander in his heyday. He looked at his shoulders indifferently. You don't seem to be honest enough. Chu Mu squeezed Norman Osborn's hand and exerted a little force. The metal gloves worn by Norman Osborn had severe shapeshifting. Ah! Norman Osborn screamed in pain. The bones of his palms were crushed to pieces, and huge amounts of pain made him scream. He couldn't hold the laser sword in his hand either. It's quite powerful. Chu Mu pulled out the laser sword that he had lost control of from his shoulder. Press the off button and the laser sword returns to its stick mentality. You can take this thing back and study it carefully. Therefore, Chu Mu received the space equipment on his. At the same time, his charred and bleeding shoulder had also completed self-healing. Only the torn clothes showed that he had been injured just now. Your body, your body. Green Goblin ignored the pain in his palm and exclaimed again and again. He saw with his own eyes the self-healing process on Chu Mu's shoulder. This was the kind of power he dreamed of, the kind of ability that could cure his family's genetic disease. You're envious, right? Chu Mu smiled kindly. Immediately, before Norman Osborn could react, he grabbed Norman Osborn's head, lifted Norman Osborn up, and slammed him against the wall. Then just be envious of it. Norman Osborn was smashed into the wall, and tiny pieces of masonry were constantly flying. There are also dense cracks in other off-plan houses throughout the walls. Cough cough cough. This is Norman. Osborn wears Green Goblin armor and has received strengthening agents. But it was extremely painful under such a violent impact. His hands kept waving wildly, trying to press him against the wall to get him out, but Chu Mu was still holding his head at this time. As compensation for hurting me, I think you should meet the previous requirements and attach all the shares of Osborne Industries. Chu Mu stood at a very close distance, with his face close, and opened the mask of Green Goblin Norman Osborn. He casually crushed the mask into a piece of scrap metal. What do you think? In his eyes, the scarlet light carries a strong oppressive force. Norman Osborn couldn't help but tremble all over his body. He felt unprecedented oppression. I felt the threat of death and endless fear. At the moment, the chairman of Osborne Industries, the extremely arrogant Green Goblin, is no longer as arrogant as before, nor does he have the uncontrollable anger. No one is more afraid of death than Norman Osborn. He once lay in a hospital bed for a long time and wandered on the edge of life and death countless times. When the condition is serious, even getting out of bed and walking was an almost impossible luxury for him. Therefore, after being injected with a body-strengthening agent last night and gaining physical fitness beyond ordinary people, he couldn't help but want to go out and show off his vitality. Old illness in bed. Norman Osborn has long been mentally ill. Green Goblin potion. Just aggravating his morbid psychology, Norman Osborn had just gained the life and vitality he had dreamed of, and he felt that he could have many plans and opportunities to show off. However, but I didn't expect it. I thought Chu Mu was just an ordinary person whom he could manipulate at will. As a result, This meeting turned out to be a ridiculous tragedy in which he dug his own grave and set himself on fire. Norman Osborn could clearly feel the threat of death in Chu Mu. Just like now, the red light in the other person's eyes. Norman Osborn had no doubt that as long as he dared to shake his head, the other party would blow his head off. I give up. I give up. I am willing to cooperate with you. I am willing to share my technology with you. Norman Osborn's arrogance has disappeared. At the moment, he was like a poor man begging for mercy, crying like a joker. I am willing to hand over the research data, hand over the strengthening potion, and that scientist, yes, that scientist, as long as you spare my life. Death threats. Let Norman Osborn never stand up as a Green Goblin again. If we don't talk about split personality, it's not actually a serious disease. Look, doesn't this make Norman and Osborn recover instantly? What arrogant, crazy thoughts. Now Norman Osborn can only follow his heart, only his love and desire for life. Oh, you're misunderstanding me again. Chu Mu pinched Norman Osborn's chin and crushed Norman Osborn's mandible to pieces. Looking at Norman Osborn, who was in great pain, he showed a disdainful expression and was told, "Give me your information and the people I need, in compensation." Chu Mu's voice was neither urgent nor slow, but it carried a terrifying sense of urgency. "Remember, I'm not talking to you about cooperation. I'm asking you to do this." Chu's order didn't make sense at all. If it were 10 minutes ago, an exposure that would definitely make Norman and Osborn lose their minds. However, it turns out that no matter how arrogant a person is, they can be calm in the face of the beauty of life. Not only did I not mind, but I felt that what the other party said was right. Okay, I will definitely do what you say. As long as you let me go, Osborne Industries, and I can serve you. I want to be your slave. Norman begged. His eyes were full of horror and fear. Norman, your narcissism is no less than that of Stark. It's just a pity that you don't have the same value as Stark. Chu Mu looked disdainful. A guy like you has no qualifications to follow me. It's not that Chu Mu is arrogant, but Norman Osborn really isn't ignored by him. Even Osborne Industries. In his opinion, it is just a valuable enterprise. Just like Hammer Industries, there is not much technical content that can be used at all. Norman Osborn's physical fitness was not worth mentioning in Chu's opinion. To follow him, not to mention having a brain like Stark. At least, it has to be as special as Johnny, right? It is a pity. Norman Osborn had neither. You were right. A humble insect like me is not even qualified to lick your shoes. Please be kind and forgive me for my ignorance and offense. Norman Osborn was still pleading. He didn't want to die. He really didn't want to. In order to survive, dignity means nothing to him. Then, give me what I want. Chu Mu pulled Norman Osborn out of the wall and threw him to the ground. Norman Osborn looked up and saw Chu Mu's expressionless face. His first reaction was not to get up. Instead, he crawled not far away, trying to get as far away from Chu Mu as possible. After climbing a certain distance, the fear in his heart weakened a lot. Don't let me down again, you only have 10 minutes. Chu Mu sat on the only intact chair in the messy office. That's enough time. Norman Osborn quickly calmed down his thoughts about the aftermath of the disaster, got up from the ground, and staggered towards the bookcase. This time, there is no conspiracy. Norman Osborn has realized that the young man in front of him is a terrifying existence that he cannot match, is unimaginable, and should not belong to the human world. FFFLY. This arrogant Green Goblin has become much more honest. He opened the secret door of the bookcase and took out a USB flash drive and a box. This is the information you want. Norman Osborn was doing this for his own physical condition and for the future condition of his son. I have always been very interested in biological research. As long as something results, he will secretly make backups. The main reason is that I am afraid that there will be another Richard Parker. Whether it was experimental research materials or some semi-finished products, Norman secretly hid some of them and placed them in his office in the group. His purpose in doing all this is to save a hand. In case someone betrayed him again, Norman Osborn probably never dreamed that his approach would actually save his life today. This is what you want. Norman Osborn placed the USB flash drive and safe in front of Chu Mu with a little fear. He opened the box. There are dozens of tubes of different reagents inside. They are all the results of different stages of biological research. Among them, there are 4 green test tubes, which contain green shiny medicine. Shining with a slightly dangerous sheen. Chu Mu knows. This should be the strengthening agent that transformed Norman Osborn from a patient who was likely to belch at any time to his current super soldier state. In a sense, this is probably the closest replica to the super soldier serum. During World War II, Dr. Abraham, the researcher of the super soldier serum, was killed in a Hydra attack. The notes and experimental records he left behind were divided and copied by major forces. But it's a pity. Although there is specific information, to this day, no one has been able to successfully recreate the miracle of Captain America. The Green Goblin serum is close to success, but it has the side effect of making a person extremely evil, which is probably similar to the formula that gave birth to Red Skull. Anyway, this should be regarded as a successful but not completely successful strengthening serum. Chu Mu believes that as long as his laboratory recruits enough talents, it is probably only a matter of time before he can successfully restore the authentic super soldier serum. Question. Now, it's time to take me to see my doctor. Chu Mu took away the materials and finished products with satisfaction. Norman Osborn looked at his ability to make items disappear out of thin air with dumbfounded eyes. Which made him even more certain that the guy with the eyes might not really be a human being. That guy, no, I mean your doctor, the current situation is there are some problems with his experiments. Norman Osborn didn't dare to say that he was responsible for turning Kurt Connors into a lizard man. He hesitated and looked a little guilty. Chu Mu reacted immediately. Maybe Kurt Connors has become the new doctor, otherwise Osborn wouldn't have such an expression. You only need to tell me where he is, and the rest has nothing to do with you. Chu Mu glanced at Norman Osborn in front of him with a deep meaning. Norman Osborn was shocked, feeling that the other party had seen through what he wanted to hide. He didn't dare to continue hesitation and quickly told where Kurt Connors was. Don't think about running away, let alone calling the police. Give your shares to be transferred to me within 3 days, and then voluntarily donate blood to my laboratory. Before Chu Mu left the office, he warned Norman with a serious look on his face, saying that he did not want the other party to fail to listen to his persuasion for the 3rd time. I understand. What else could Norman Osborn do? He could only nod his head in agreement. Watching Chu Mu leave bitterly, not to mention how regretful he was in his heart, he wanted to take revenge on Chu Mu unexpectedly, he filled in the whole family. Facing such a terrifying enemy, he really didn't dare to resist at all. After Chu Mu left, he looked at the broken newspapers on the ground. The Green Devil is raging in the city, who can save us from fire and water? This is a report from the New York Times. At the moment, it makes Norman and Osborn feel very ironic. He seemed to hear in his own ears, another self began to whisper and confuse again. However, this time, Norman Osborn didn't have any hesitation at all. He just gave himself 2 large sums of money. What the hell, why don't you go back for revenge? I promise, I really want to live well. How should I put it? Norman Osborn's mental illness has a tendency to be cured after this experience. Have to say, as a poor man who was considered betrayed by Norman Osborn and wanted to monopolize the research results, Kurt Connors' experience can be described as miserable. When Chu Mu met this scientist, who was actually considered one of the best in the Marvel Universe, Kurt Connors was being imprisoned in a specially made cage. He had lost most of his human sanity and became a violent man. An angry monster, powerful and dangerous. When he became Dr. Lizard, he gained powers that were far beyond those of Spider-Man. It can easily lift objects weighing dozens of tons, definitely surpassing the growth of Spider-Man and Spider-Gwen. At the same time, the reaction ability and agility of Dr. Lizard have been upgraded to the same level as Spider-Man, and Dr. Lizard's skin has a considerable degree of defense. His potion does not only give the user extraordinary self-healing power. It's just that the cost of not being a human being is actually quite high. Let me out, I will tear you apart. Don't look at the fact that Kurt Connors, now transformed into a lizard man, is imprisoned in a special cage. The end looks quite tragic. But no, because his personality and thinking were affected by the medicine, Dr. Lizard didn't feel miserable at all. He grabbed the steel bars of the cage and constantly threatened the guards. After being forcibly injected with medicine, he became a human with a lizard appearance. What's even more frightening is that not only his appearance, but also Kurt's thinking was completely distorted. Definitely, compared to those guys who directly transformed into dementia monsters, Dr. Lizard actually inherited Kurt's high IQ. Just like now, he knew that he was a useful experimental subject and his life would be in danger for a while, so he was waiting for a time when he could escape. As for the constant harsh words, that's all because the brain is filled with angry emotions. Just want to vent. Thank you for guarding, now I'm going to take him away. Chu Mu looked at the huge amounts of cages like trucks, and did not use violent means of transportation. After all, this is the city of New York, and the outside is full of pedestrians and cars. There was absolutely no need for him to cause a pointless commotion. Therefore, the most appropriate way is to call Helen Zhao's people to transport it. The security personnel of Osborne Industry did not stop him, and looked at Chu Mu with respect. It seemed that they had received Norman Osborn's instructions remotely. One thing to say, Norman Osborne must have been mentally disturbed by Chu Mu. I am extremely afraid of Chu Mu. Even the symptoms of schizophrenia have been alleviated. It is conceivable that such a person who was afraid of Chu Mu must have given these guards very strict orders, so that in the eyes of these guards, Chu Mu became a big shot that even Norman Osborne had to take seriously. Boy, where do you want to take me? Dr. Lizard's intuition as a reptile made him feel that the Chu Mu in front of him was a character that made him feel extremely dangerous. Seeing that he was about to be taken away by Chu Mu, he couldn't help but panic. Didn't Osborne want to study the changes in him? Why did he sell him to a stranger after changing hands? And he is such a dangerous-looking stranger. You're going to like your new work environment, Dr. Kurt Connors, definitely, not until I find a way to turn you back into a human. Chu Mu smiled slightly at Dr. Lizard. He is very interested in Kurt Connors' scientific research ability. Although Dr. Lizard is also very smart, in order to obtain a stable employee, Chu Mu thinks it would be better to turn Dr. Lizard back into Kurt Connors. After all, Dr. Lizard can no longer be called a human being. He has his own set of ideas, believing that the world leader should be a reptilian human like him. Professor Lizard once planned to spread a potion to turn everyone in New York into reptiles like himself, but was stopped by Spider-Man, so he regarded Spider-Man as his biggest enemy from then on. In the normal timeline, he became a chaotic villain. He is not only limited to doing things in New York, but also often plans ways to turn all human beings into lizard humans like him. There is a saying that this kind of thinking is indeed a little too anti-human. This probably involves a psychological issue of biological identity. All creatures must feel that their own race is the most perfect. For example, in human fantasy works, humans are always the ones who save the world, and in the end humans can even kill the god of creation. Put yourself in Dr. Lizard's shoes. He believed that the ultimate evolution of humans would be lizard humans. It's understandable, but look at it from a human perspective. There must be some serious illness in Dr. Lizard's brain. Chu Mu would not trust a lizard man in this state to enter his research institution. Just in case. What if Chu Mu travels for 2 or 3 months and comes back to find that the entire laboratory has turned into lizard men and been brainwashed and transformed by this guy? Even if this doesn't happen, Dr. Lizard will definitely not be honest. He will think of using the resources provided by Chu Mu to transform all mankind. The hidden dangers of such a scientist are indeed too great, so even if Dr. Lizard's intelligence is still top-notch, Chu Mu has to find a way to turn him back into Kurt Connors. Otherwise, look, I don't want to turn back into a weak human being. The human body is just a failed natural creation. I am truly perfect and powerful now. Dr. Lizard is very persistent in this idea. It grasped the iron bars of the cage and kept shaking, making a lot of noise. Combined with his huge reminder of more than 3 meters high, it actually made many guards take a few steps back in fright. These security personnel are just veterans. In the past, most refugees were killed, but nowhere had such a monster array been seen. Definitely, for ordinary people, Dr. Lizard may be very dangerous, but for Chu Mu, this is a relatively large and harmless creature. Weak. And noisy. You really know nothing about perfection and power. Chu Mu's expression was as smiling as ever, and he walked to the side of the cage. Dr. Lizard's eyes flashed with cruelty. He stretched out his green arms and wanted to grab Chu Mu's head. The security personnel were so frightened that they rushed up and pulled Chu Mu away. Sir, this monster is quite dangerous and inhumane. We have already sacrificed 3 comrades. You'd better not contact him without permission. After the security personnel pulled Chu Mu away, they began to persuade Chu Mu to authenticate. Finished, he shouted again to a technician. Turn on the power grid and teach this monster a long lesson. He almost hurt Mr. Osborne's guest. With this one command, the technician flipped a switch. Zzzz. High-voltage electric current passed through the cage, causing Dr. Lizard to stretch out an arm and let out an extremely painful scream and roar. Even if you have tough skin, you are not afraid of bullets. He has a powerful body, comparable to little Spider-Man, but he still has trouble with the electric current thing. Also normal. After all, they are still carbon-based organisms. There is also a lot of water in the body. The body can be electrified. Naturally, they will be injured by electricity. It's just that compared to normal life forms, guys like Dr. Lizard have a stronger ability to withstand voltage. High-voltage electricity is obviously still not within Dr. Lizard's tolerance range. Definitely, this guy may be pretending to be in pain. After all, he is a highly intelligent monster. No one knows whether he will use this method to lay some foreshadowing to pave the way for his future escape behavior if he finds the right opportunity. Dr. Lizard is such a cunning and scheming guy. Otherwise, he would not have become one of the 10 most important villains in the Spider-Man plot line. Guys who can continue to dance around in the comics of various periodicals day after day are not simple things. It can only be said that high-voltage electricity will definitely make him feel pain. But it is not necessarily true that after being shocked like this, he will be knocked down directly in the cage, constantly wailing and cursing. Inside, there is a high probability that there will be some acting elements. In fact, Chu Mu can prove this because of the X-ray-like vision of his eyes. In fact, Dr. Lizard's body did not suffer much damage. Those few clicks just made the monster's heart beat faster for more than 10 seconds. After lying back in the cage and wailing, he had returned to normal. Sure enough, Oscar-level acting skills will appear in politicians, speeches, entrepreneurs, and even such mutant weirdos, but they will not appear in Hollywood stars. Chu Mu sighed silently again one sentence. You guys, wait until I get out. I will definitely eat you alive. After turning into a monster, Dr. Lizard's appetite even looks a little different. He was constantly cursing and roaring, but he didn't dare to get close to the metal railings of the cage. Oh, brothers, relax a little, you don't need to click on him like this. I don't have any problems, and he can't hurt me. Chu Mu didn't resist when he was taken away just now. Otherwise, the strength of these ordinary people alone would not even be able to shake him at all. Only, he also knew that these security personnel, whether they were afraid of losing their jobs or not, were always thinking about his safety. So, there was no action. However, several security personnel pulled him to a distance. Sir, he is really dangerous. The security guard reminded him again helplessly. He just felt very speechless in his heart. You are okay, that's because we took you away, otherwise, you would have had your head ripped off by the monster. Several security personnel, at the moment, thought that Chu Mu was the rich second generation of some big family who came to play. Their brains are as abnormal as those who sniff laundry detergent. Anyone with a bit of discernment can understand how dangerous this monster is, and yet this rich second generation is still here laughing and joking. Do you really think this monster is a stuffed toy? Or do you think that because you have money, the whole world can't hurt you? The security officers had not just seen this kind of brain-dead rich second generation once. Obviously, they now also regard Chu Mu as that kind of guy who doesn't know the heights of the world. Take it easy. Chu Mu shrugged. There was some contempt for the security personnel. He didn't care either. After all, these are just a bunch of ordinary people. It is normal to think so. Chu Mu does not have the spare time or the idea to explain to these people how he is different. I just want to see the experiment I made. Don't get excited. And you, big guy, let me see if your evolution is really perfect. Chu Mu said, close to the past again. This time, The security personnel felt extremely annoyed. They felt that their good intentions were being misunderstood, and that the rich second-generation young master in front of them didn't even listen to their words. There is really no cure. With this in mind, the security personnel did not intend to rescue Chu Mu immediately. They just got a little closer and were ready to take action at any time. How to say, deliberately causing Chu Mu to stumble. But although they were unhappy with people like Chu Mu, they were still salaried people after all, and they still knew that this was Norman Osborn's guest. It was still the kind of guest that Norman Osborn called 3 times and told them not to offend or neglect. After all, it was definitely a big shot. Such a role, if there is any loss from them, then it's not just a matter of losing his job. Norman Osborn is not a kind man. Those big families, they don't take their lives seriously. In order to calm down the anger of a family, it is normal to sacrifice a few people who have neglected their duties. Just teach him a lesson. Let him understand how dangerous monsters are. Several security personnel planned to take action immediately before Chu Mu was attacked. Simply to scare this guy. Therefore, they watched Chu Mu approach the cage, and then positioned themselves and others in the best rescue position. Turn off the voltage. Chu Mu is not afraid of this high voltage. However, he doesn't want his hair to stand straight up. After all, his current hairstyle cost $5,000 to cut. As soon as he said this, the security personnel looked on with cold eyes. One of them nodded slightly to the technician. Then, high-voltage electricity is switched off. Kid, you are such a good person. Dr. Lizard looked grateful and stood up from the ground. He approached the cage and watched Chu Mu getting closer and closer in a low voice. Unknown, maybe he wanted to thank Chu Mu. However, when Chu Mu walked back to the cage again, the lizard doctor took action again, wiping out his claw-like hands without hesitation. It's just that you should have listened to their advice just now and not come close to me. Dr. Lizard's cruel eyes are extremely vicious. He made a very sharp little sound, and clawed hard at Chu Mu's head with his powerful claws. This is the plan. Just crush Chu Mu's head. Several armed men moved immediately, but their speed was still a bit slow. It was not that they were too late to save Chu Mu. But he didn't keep up with Chu Mu's action. Chu Mu raised a hand and easily blocked Dr. Lizard's claws. Before the security personnel and Dr. Lizard could react, he immediately grabbed Dr. Lizard's wrist with a backhand push. Let me go. What's wrong with you? Dr. Lizard was a little horrified to find that there was a sharp pain in his wrist. It was much more painful than the high-voltage electricity just now. Not only was there severe pain, Dr. Lizard was also horrified to find that he could not free his wrist at all. How can this be? He has the power to twist steel and smash cars. My God, how is this going? Super soldier. Dr. Lizard wasn't the only one stunned by this scene. The security personnel who were halfway through the rush also stopped one by one and showed horrified expressions. What did they see? A young man who didn't seem to be tall, but rather well-proportioned, actually subdued the monster's attack with one hand. And it looked like it was causing the monster a lot of pain. Is this something that actually happens in the real world? Isn't this really a dream? Many security personnel only thought this scene was extremely dreamy. Some security personnel with more knowledge thought of the super soldier project that Osborn and the military were researching, but without much success. This is actually not a well-hidden secret. As I said, a guy like this can't hurt me at all. Chu Mu's face remained normal, as if he was explaining something as simple as drinking water and eating. He smiled and explained to the security personnel around him, one thing to say, at least in the eyes of these shocked security personnel now. This is Chu Mu's. He was really pretending to make them dissatisfied. You have this power. Tell me earlier. Many security personnel came to their senses, feeling both unbelievable and somewhat resentful. The eyes looking at Chu Mu were full of complexity. Let me go. As one of the parties involved, Dr. Lizard has the best say in how powerful Chu Mu is. That was the power that terrified him. No wonder. No wonder he had a huge premonition of crisis as soon as this person came in. Now Dr. Lizard already knows why. He had some regrets. I regret not trusting my instincts. Big guy, it seems that your evolution is not perfect, let alone powerful. Chu Mu looked at Dr. Lizard in the cage. He looked Dr. Lizard straight in the eyes. from this pair of vertical pupils that only reptiles have. He felt the other party's weakness and fear. I am truly perfect and powerful, not by changing my race. Chu Mu said that the human body is the truly perfect body, just like what he looks like now. Changing all the guys from this race have some serious brain problems. As the saying goes, what a person with a big fist says is the truth. Chu Mu's remarks. In the Marvel Universe, there may be many people who are qualified to refute this. Only, it was obvious that none of the people present now had the qualifications to refute, so the security personnel could only stand in silence at a distance. Quietly watching Chu Mu's costume comparison, they felt a little amazed and incomprehensible. How did Chu Mu's body burst out with the power to subdue the lizard monster? To know, the lizard monster is over 3 meters tall. You human being, what on earth did you inject yourself with? Dr. Lizard kept struggling, but to no avail. His strength was not worth mentioning in front of Chu Mu. Not to mention resisting, he couldn't even move the fingers of Chu Mu who held his wrist. Looking at the human in front of him who was stronger than himself and looked like a monster, Dr. Lizard only felt that the other person might have been injected with some kind of strengthening agent like himself. Could it be the super soldier potion that was successfully restored? In the mind of Dr. Lizard, this idea came up for the first time. However, he quickly rejected this idea. He was also one of the people who participated in the restoration of the super soldier serum. Before Huan Yao evolved into a lizard man, I have read some of the research information on super serum. There is a body research report on the only successful experimental subject, Captain America. Captain America, who has been injected with the super soldier serum, has only about 1 ton of strength at best, and it is impossible to have the strength to restrain him. Although he has not accurately tested his current physical data, Dr. Lizard also knows that his physical data definitely exceeds Captain America's. To know, he just easily twisted off several people's heads and crushed several people's firearms. This was enough power to shatter steel. However, but he couldn't resist the human beings in front of him at all. Dr. Lizard could not imagine how powerful a strengthening agent could be to create such a terrifying human being. As long as you change back to normal, you will have the opportunity to study that potion. Chu Mu didn't look like he was in Nuo's office. He sneered at the act of injecting drugs. The reason is simple. He wants to arouse Dr. Lizard's interest in compound number 5, and when Dr. Lizard becomes Kurt Connors again, he will have a motivated employee. I have been a capitalist for so many years. How to motivate employees? Chu Mu still has some methods of his own. I don't want to turn back into a human. Dr. Lizard was indeed intrigued by Chu Mu. But, compared with the curiosity of knowing what Chu Mu injected, he hates turning back into a human being even more. That kind of weak, decayed, powerless body is not the body he wants. That's not up to you. Chu Mu knew that Dr. Lizard's current thinking was distorted. Therefore, don't mind either. It was just a symbolic break of Dr. Lizard's wrist to let Dr. Lizard calm down. Dr. Lizard really started wailing in the cage this time. The voice is much more full of emotion than before. No matter how good the acting is, it will never be as good as a true and passionate performance. Seeing Chu Mu's violent methods, several security personnel's hearts skipped a beat and their scalps went numb. He was respectful to Chu Fang from the bottom of his heart. I didn't dare to reprimand him loudly. This is a big boss that they can't offend not only because of his background, but also because of his military power, and they have to serve him like their ancestors. Here, you drink water. Someone came up to please Chu Mu. Chu Mu glanced at him, then chose another female technician and handed over the pure milk. Drinking water was not as interesting as drinking milk. Under the careful care of such a group of security personnel, not much time passed. Umbrella Biotech's special truck arrived at Osborne Industries. After all, everyone is in New York. If there's no traffic jam, it's only a few dozen minutes away. Because of Chu Mu's intimidation just now, Dr. Lizard did not have any thoughts of causing trouble during the transfer process. Definitely, for safety reasons, Chu Mu still gave Dr. Lizard anesthesia. Nerve agents were used. The super anesthetic that Chu Mu drew from the card pool of the Black Robe Picket world, no, strictly speaking, it should be a fatal neurotoxin. It can directly poison a small town of humans. But It becomes a very useful anesthetic when used on super creatures, especially creatures with strong bodies and powerful self-healing abilities like Dr. Lizard. Effect lever. It seems that Chu Mu wants to ask the laboratory to analyze and restore the ingredients of the nerve agent, so that it can be used for mass production and sales in the future. This might also be a way to make money. Thinking of the various modified humans in the future, as well as Asgardians, aliens. Chu Mu felt that this nerve agent should be very marketable. Watching the professional armed personnel loading Dr. Lizard into the vehicle, Chu Mu followed this group of people and left Osborne Industries. In situ, only the Osborne Industrial security personnel were left watching his back as he left. After these people looked at each other, almost all of them breathed a sigh of relief. They still felt incredible about the power Chu Mu had just shown. Then a group of people started chattering. Someone mentioned that it might be a super soldier serum, which immediately triggered a discussion on related topics. Super soldier serum actually has such a powerful effect. Several armed men felt a sudden realization. They thought they knew a great secret. No wonder the Osborne group of our own has not given up research over the years, and the military has also been persevering for many years. Super soldiers are so powerful. Can you not be strong? If not, how could Captain America save the world and end World War II by himself? Someone mentioned Captain America, who was put on a pedestal by the Great Free State. Others also echoed in agreement. How to say, I don't know if Captain America really recovers. These people saw that Captain America did not meet their expectations. In fact, he could not easily kill Dr. Lizard's standard combat power. Will they suspect that Steve Rogers is a fake Captain America? Many people feel that way. The super soldier serum is a taboo, secretive subject. In fact, in the Marvel Universe, not to mention the relevant practitioners, even many ordinary people have a certain understanding of the original super soldier plan. Think about it. During World War II, recruitment to create super soldiers is open to the public, and each unit is carefully selected. There are not a few soldiers who know about this plan. Not to mention that Steve Rogers, as the only successful experimental subject, was used by politicians to run cheerleading teams to recruit military sponsors in various fields. The whole free country. At that time, everyone probably knew that there was such a plan and that there was such a person who succeeded in the experiment, even though many people have forgotten about it now. But the super soldier serum isn't exactly a secret either. It's normal for people to discuss things privately. Just like the security personnel of the Osborne group just now. Also like the armed men in the truck where Chu Mu is sitting now. Is this big monster the result of failed research on the super soldier serum? A curious person asked Chu Mu about the situation. They don't know Chu Mu's true identity as their boss. I only know that Chu Mu may be a senior executive in a company. You know quite a lot. They are all pretty much the same. They are all products of failed potions. Chu Mu did not explain the differences between different potions. If these armed men could understand, they must not be people who use guns to eat, but are doing scientific research in the laboratory. This is not discrimination either. The main thing is that there are specialties in the art industry. What a poor guy. Look what he has become. I really don't know why our country allows these failed products to be tested on humans. I've known for a long time that the Osborne group is not normal. They are conducting research on people in secret, and it is not the kind that has received formal approval at all. Hey, they are all politicians and corrupt officials. They turn a blind eye to these people. Keep your voice down. The company we are currently working in, BGDA, is also engaged in biological research. Haven't you heard that the company has a research department for super soldier serum? This group of armed men was escorting Dr. Lizard. They were all chattering around Dr. Lizard, expressing their own emotions. The smarter ones among them silently glanced at Chu Mu, who was the company senior executive. Interrupting the further discussion among his companions, presumably to avoid a verbal conflict with Chu Mu, who is the company senior executive. As a security officer, they also don't have the right to criticize the company's research direction. Anyway, use money to do things. You don't have to worry about me. Our company does focus on biotechnology, and we also have plans to restore the super soldier serum. But we will definitely not enter the human testing stage before the research achieves clinical success. After all, This big guy is the best warning to us. Chu Mu didn't mind the discussion among the security personnel. He is a successful entrepreneur, and he does not have the vengeful character of Norman Osborn. What does it mean to be a successful entrepreneur? That is, as long as you do things for me, make money for me or protect my company, you will not cause me any actual losses. So, you are my good brother, you are my family, I will have a very good attitude towards you, and I will not care whether you are happy or not. Are we responsible for destroying this experimental subject? A security guard saw that Chu Mu was easier to talk to, so he boldly asked curiously. Several security personnel around also pricked up their ears. Extremely curious. We are a company with a sense of responsibility and justice. We will never humanely destroy an innocent scientist just because he made an experimental mistake. Chu Mu spoke uprightly. Anyway, Dr. Lizard was too sleepy to refute. What we have to do is to save him as much as possible and help him return to a normal human being as much as possible. This is the real reason why we study biotechnology, isn't it? Helping those in need and improving the quality of human life. Chu Mu's righteous words made the security personnel of the First Army stand in awe. They all clapped their hands and applauded. Each one of them praised the company's actions and lamented that they had joined a company with a conscience. How to say? Although Chu Mu's words are not much different from those of most politicians and entrepreneurs, his words are definitely more valuable than others. Umbrella technology. Put aside Chu Mu's selfishness. What needs to be done is really what Chu Mu said now. I really didn't expect that our company would have such an original intention. It seems that my comrades who called me here were right. A security guard spoke happily. In fact, in the eyes of the security personnel, they are not fools. It is absolutely impossible for them to believe whatever Chu Mu says. However, no one wants to help others do evil, and everyone wants to believe that the company they join is a good company. Therefore, for Chu Mu's words, they choose to believe. It's not that they are easy to fool. As for the reason why they came to work, whether it was the call of their comrades or free application, it was actually just because Chu Mu offered a high price. Definitely, the requirements for professionalism are also very strict. These security personnel, not just ordinary retired soldiers, they are basically all ace special forces who failed to find a job after retiring due to various reasons. There are also those who actually find a job and are then poached by umbrella companies. Most of them have extremely high tactical literacy and level. Only in the world of ordinary people. Definitely, you can always trust our company. We are a collective, we are tired of logging, and we have absolutely zero tolerance for evil research. Chu Mu fed the security personnel chicken soup all the way. The security personnel were inspired and affected. Downstairs of the umbrella company, they had already begun to accept the brainwashing, and they had a little sense of identification with the new company. They admire the company's sentiment. I even admire the company's ability to make Chu Mu so caring and supportive. I was thinking in my heart, how righteous is the company, so that Chu Mu, who looks righteous at first sight, has such a sense of identity, and spares no effort to show them the beauty of the company. How to say? If these people knew that Chu Mu was the boss of the company, their expressions would definitely become very, very exciting. It's a pity that they may not have a chance in a short time. After arriving at the umbrella, these security personnel are responsible for delivering the cage containing Dr. Lizard to a specific research room. And Chu Mu. Then he stepped directly into the elevator of the building, ready to see if the instruments he ordered yesterday had arrived. Zhao Hailun had already urged him several times. Come to the laboratory floor. You can see white coats coming and going everywhere. There are also the kind of rooms that require close disinfection before entering. Various precision instruments. It can also be found everywhere in the laboratory. Today's umbrella biotechnology company can be considered to have extremely complete facilities, and in terms of personnel, it almost only lacks enough scientists. After all, Chu Mu is willing to spend money. Even for this. He also sold some of his family property. There was no way, after all, Stark stock still had great value, and it was impossible for him to use Stark stock to cash out money. The investment in the laboratory is not the kind of investment that will be rewarded quickly. It will take several years or even more than 10 years to continue burning money. Therefore, Chu Mu hesitated for a long time before choosing to sell off 6 commercial streets in New York, as well as 2 skyscrapers in the heart of New York City. Have to say, Chu Mu felt that he was a bit damaged. His hard assets had shrunk by at least 1% as a result, and he didn't know when he would be able to recover his capital. Such a large amount of effort will naturally yield good results, and a biotechnology company will be established quickly. Zhao Hailun, I brought the scientist you asked for. Chu Mu inspected the company and found that the instrument Zhao Hailun wanted was finally installed. Only then did he choose to see Helen Zhao. Moreover, he took Helen Zhao to a special research room where the imprisoned Dr. Lizard was placed. Don't tell me, this big monster is Kurt Connors. Zhao Hailun saw the huge lizard sleeping soundly in the research room. His expression changed slightly. She looked at Chu Mu beside her with disbelief. What the hell? A good doctor. Why did you become a reptile? After getting Chu Mu's confirming look, Zhao Hai's expression couldn't help but become complicated. How to say? From a certain perspective, her vision was not wrong. Kurt Connors is indeed a top biologist worth recruiting. After all, he has the technology to turn primates into reptiles. That's quite outrageous. Yes, anyone who has studied biology knows this. Primates and reptiles. How far away is it? Being able to turn a human into a lizard, Helen Zhao felt that Kurt Connors' ability was even stronger than she expected. Why do you want to use yourself as a guinea pig? Is there really such a biochemical crazy Frankenstein in this world? Helen Zhao's pair of colored contact lenses were full of confusion. She obviously couldn't have imagined that Norman from the Osborne group would be so crazy that he directly forced his scientists to inject immature medicine. Therefore, she just thought Kurt Connors had some scientific quirks. As you can see, something went wrong in his experiment, so if you want to get a good scientist, you have to first find a way to help him get back to normal. It's not like Chu Mu hasn't tried to use holy light to cure Dr. Lizard. However, after all, the holy light is not omnipotent. The change in the opponent's genetic level was so complete that even his soul was distorted. All Chu could do was to completely purify Lizard Bashang. How to say? Maybe Chu Mu is not good at using the holy light. If he can put the holy light into Dr. Lizard's body cells and every particle of his soul in a precise manner, Dr. Lizard's situation can actually be reversed. Only, Chu Mu obviously does not have such detailed control power. This is related to mental strength and patience. Chu Mu is not very qualified in both. Is this another troublesome job assigned to you? Zhao Hailun looked at the lizard man in the cage and felt like crying. Now she gradually understood. There was a high probability that he had boarded a pirate ship. Chu Mu did not deceive her or fool her. There was indeed a big project waiting for her. But she still ignored the fact that Chu Mu was a capitalist. It's like catching her and squeezing her to death. There are almost 4 or 5 projects. How can it be run by her alone? Not sleeping for 24 hours. That would lead to sudden death. No, probably not in an umbrella company. So staying up for 24 hours may be the working state that the other party expects. Thank you for your hard work. The holy light in Chu Mu's hand circulated on Zhao Hailun for a while, and Zhao Hailun, who was already a little tired, regained his energy again. You still know how hard I worked. Helen Zhao's face did not show the surprise she had when she first encountered this situation. Instead, he looked depressed. Look, this is why she won't die suddenly in the umbrella company. The other party really has that mysterious ability that allows her to work continuously for 14 hours. One thing to say, this may be the treatment that Helen Zhao wanted to receive. However, after working for more than 100 hours without sleep. At the moment, Ms. Zhao Hailun, who is full of energy again, just wants to experience the happiness of a lazy person and sleep for 7 or 8 hours. It's a pity, I don't deserve it. Although Helen Zhao felt uncomfortable, she was actually enjoying it. She was just expressing her dissatisfaction with Chu Mu's squeezing behavior. Although you give me 3 times my salary, what I want is not salary. What I want is attitude. I want to work overtime and you want me to work overtime. Those are 2 completely different concepts. Chu Mu didn't listen to Zhao Hailun complain for too long, mainly because Zhao Hailun's combat effectiveness was really not good enough. After a few complaints, there are no words. Immediately afterwards, I remembered some unfinished work again. Immediately. He, willingly, invested in the development and construction of the company. Chu Mu didn't stay under the umbrella for long. He knew that Umbrella's cafeteria was not as good as the newspaper office. After all, chefs specially trained by S.H.I.E.L.D. were cooking for him there. Therefore, after seeing that there were no other problems at Umbrella Biotechnology Company, he reported back to the company to enjoy the further cooking skills of Bob's team. Your cooking skills have improved a lot recently. Chu Mu was very satisfied with her meal. Continuously improving oneself is also a professional quality that every chef should have. I am also often participating in some new cooking skills training. Bob, as always, wore a flattering face. Indeed, if you do something and love something, the improvement of any ability will never end. Chu Mu is very satisfied with Bob's professional attitude. He looked at Agent Carter's niece who was disguised as a cleaner outside, and then at the S.H.I.E.L.D. agent in the company who was responsible for cleaning the toilets. The latest craftsmanship of these people. Everything has improved. A true S.H.I.E.L.D. agent. Even the posture and efficiency of cleaning the toilet are being studied. They deserve to be the top agency in the world. Boss, I heard that you recently opened a new company. Bob saw Chu Mu eating happily and quickly started to perform his tasks. Before the food comes in, he has been told well by his boss's boss several times. Yes, just have fun. As soon as Chu Mu heard this tone, he immediately understood the other party's intention. However, on the surface, he remained calm and made a very casual gesture. Rich people, isn't it normal to pursue the latest technology and engage in biology in a water park? I wonder if your company is still hiring. Bob was afraid of Chu Mu. After all, everyone in the company now knew that the young man in front of him had even Nick Fury. They all spoke of the terrifying force of wanting to resign. What kind of person are you talking about recruiting? Chu Mu raised an eyebrow. I'm a cook. I definitely want to find out if the boss's new company cafeteria is ready and if a chef is needed to cook there. Bob quickly looked embarrassed and a bit shy. What, you're not used to staying at the newspaper office, and you want to find another job? Is it because you don't have a good relationship with your colleagues? Chu Mu deliberately made a caring gesture. That's not true, that's not true. It's mainly a friend of mine who recently lost his job. He is also a chef and his skills are very good. What a friend who makes a living out of nothing. Bob acted like he was looking for a job for his best friend. There is no need for chefs. They are already full. Now there is only a shortage of scientists. Forbidden Mud replied with a chuckle. New company. He doesn't want S.H.I.E.L.D. moving in. S.H.I.E.L.D. is just a newspaper office, it just needs to shine for a while, and it is engaged in biology. S.H.I.E.L.D. really has no experts and professors that Chu Mu can like. Therefore, there is absolutely no need for him to create a S.H.I.E.L.D. branch in the new company. Besides, even if the research there doesn't attract HYDRA's attention. I guess Nick Fury also has bad thoughts. He can become the director of S.H.I.E.L.D., but it is not because of mistakes within Hydra. To a certain extent, Nick Fury is actually more of a spy than Hydra. I'm sure others thought he was one of their own or someone they could easily win over. This guy is also a glutton. Because of this, after Nick Fury took office, he developed S.H.I.E.L.D. even stronger, so Hydra was happy to see a real S.H.I.E.L.D. man become their nominal leader. A scientist. Bob hesitated a bit. Actually, there are many scientists among my relatives. I don't know which one do you need, boss. Isn't this guy not embarrassed at all? What a friend out of nothing, followed immediately by, I have a relative. This set of combo punches. The beating caught Chu Mu off guard. What a stupid pig. Hill, who had been monitoring the conversation, felt that Bob was going to make things worse. He cursed secretly and his expression became a little worried. As everyone knows, the Great Free Country is a country with very fixed classes. Among the relatives of a chef, there are few talents who can cross the professional circle and become scientists. Although Bob is an excellent cook, at least that's what the information shows. But having one or two scientists among family relatives is already a big deal. There are quite a few. This kind of statement is problematic upon hearing it. Hill was worried that Bob would arouse Chu Mu's vigilance, and he suddenly became worried. How to say, she still doesn't understand her boss well enough. Under the capitalist code, Chu Mu can still pretend that he is the idiot, you actually have relatives who are scientists. Well, it seems that I still underestimated your connections. He made a very surprised expression. He looked Bob up and down, and then made a gesture that seemed like he had been hesitating for a long time before making a decision. Let's do this. You ask your relative to go for an interview and see if he meets the requirements of my new company. If so, let him join the job directly. We are all our own people. I'm sure I can use your relatives without worry. Chu Mu looked like he was fooled, but then he showed great concern for his subordinates' family situations. Bob was so happy. I just felt that I had overfulfilled the task assigned by the above. The Hill agent responsible for monitoring could not help but frown slightly and was filled with confusion. So simple. Is it so easy to place personnel into the boss's new company? Some are too unexpected. I don't know why none of the agents who applied directly were selected. I thought it was because the requirements were too high. Now it seems. Hill looked at her colleagues around her. She wondered if all the outstanding agents had been transferred to her side, so other SHIELD agents were unable to break into Chu Mu's new company. This obviously didn't seem difficult. Even Bob's relatives. The other party's willingness to give him a chance made Hill doubt the ability of the remaining colleagues of SHIELD. Let your relatives go, and I'll let the director of the Human Resources Department over there take a look. Chu Mu smiled and sent the smiling Bob out of the office. He really didn't want his new company to have SHIELD's undercover agents, but it wasn't impossible to give the other party a chance that was actually hopeless. Chu Mu trusted Comrade Ginju, the head of the Human Resources Department of his new company. Chapter 101. The following few days. Because it was rare for New York to be calm for a period of time, the work of the newspaper office was not very busy, and Chu Mu's time at the newspaper office was really limited. Not surprisingly, the relative, whom Bob arranged to interview at Umbrella Biotech was killed by Jin. Do not misunderstand. There is no intention of hiring. Reasons such as the lack of compliance in this aspect, the flaws in that aspect, and the fact that the level of knowledge did not meet the requirements directly cost Bob more than 10 relatives. Jin is definitely a person who is very good at finding excuses. Otherwise, he would not have been able to get so much organizational funding in K-Shui world. After Bob's relatives were eliminated, they all really doubted whether it was his ability. It's not enough. After this time, SHIELD did not arrange any more people to try to get into Chu Mu's new company. Hill also did not conduct a new round of testing. I don't know if SHIELD knew that Chu Mu was playing with their feelings. Anyway, Chu Mu did feel quite happy. Dealing with the newspaper's special news censorship every day, Chu Mu spends most of the remaining time paying attention to the situation on the other side of the umbrella. Umbrella Biotech's operations are increasingly on track. Definitely, the number of scientists is still a bit too scarce. In particular, a reverse genetic engineering project has recently been launched to study how to turn Kurt Connors, who became Dr. Lizard, back into a human. The number of scientists is even less sufficient, despite the fact that the project has Osborne Group data, as well as the probability of the entire Kurt Connors research process. But after all, this is a comparative research category in biology, and ordinary scientists are not only unable to lead a team to conduct research. They don't even have the ability to participate in the project. After all, not all scientists have the same ability as Helen Zhao. Most scientists' projects planned by top scientists can only be completed under the instructions of top scientists. This is the same whether in the Great Free Country or elsewhere. There was no other way, so Chu Mu could only spend a lot of money to invite many well-known biologists. This barely supported the framework of the new project. Zhao Hailun really did not have the energy to carry out all the projects. Even if Chu Mu replenished her energy, one person's energy is limited after all. With the restart of Zhao Hailun's original Cradle of Life project, and the reverse engineering of Chu Mu's number 5 compound, as well as the reverse engineering of the super soldier serum, are gradually entering a very formal stage. Zhao Hailun's 24 hours are all occupied. Her ability is really great too. Seeing several laboratories in an orderly manner, with new results being produced every day, Chu Mu felt so happy. Although they are all staged small achievements. But it also shows that several laboratories are very efficient, especially the Green Goblin potion with detailed information. That is, the research project to restore the super soldier serum. This is a highly completed potion, and now there are detailed manufacturing formulas and data. If you want to perfect and eliminate the side effects, Zhao Hailun clearly gave it was only a matter of time before Chu Mu showed it. How to say? It's not that the ability of Osborne Industries is so bad. It has not been perfected for 10 or 8 years after holding the potion. In fact, after one of them was injected with the Green Goblin potion, Norman Osborn stopped the Green Goblin potion project, and then the reason why all results are hidden. Definitely, this is not the biggest reason. The biggest reason is that Zhao Hailun discovered a certain substance during the research on compound number 5, which can be used to improve and transform the Green Goblin potion. Osborne Industries, Marvel Military, and other organizations researching super soldier serums obviously do not have the conditions to protect Umbrella Biotechnology. It's simply a perfect potion. I have to say that the finished potions you provided, boss, are simply a miracle creation. Helen Zhao expressed such emotion more than once. Isn't it perfect? The system said this is the perfect number 5 compound with no side effects. Much better than the original version. It is absolutely normal to be able to find some miraculous substances in it. Chu Mu gave Zhao Hailun's laboratory a total of 3 finished products. These 3 finished products are enough to support a long period of research. Chu Mu still has a lot of them in his hands, so he thinks they can be restored in reverse. With this information, the problem will definitely not be too big. In Chu Mu's fishing these days, he didn't get any new super abilities. The only gain that gave him some comfort was a copy of the production information for the original number 5 compound. Green quality. The production data are not perfect, and the original number 5 compound is not of high quality. However, having this information is better than nothing. It can definitely help with the research of the perfect number 5 compound. Provides a considerable level of help. This can be seen from Zhao Hailun's ecstatic expression after receiving the information. Boss, these medicines and information of yours. Why have I never heard of any experiments on compound number 5? After Zhao Helen entered the company, she lamented more than once that perfect compound number 5 was a miracle. She also wondered more than once what kind of outstanding scientists could research such a medicine, and how it fell into the hands of Chu Mu. Perform reverse restoration. Helen Zhao is a girl who likes reading. Therefore, she has already recreated the plots of at least 30 episodes of Hollywood blockbusters in her mind more than once. But, imagination is still imagination. Zhao Helen still didn't know what the truth was. She had been holding it back before, but this time she couldn't hold it back anymore after seeing the production materials of the original number 5 compound. With such a powerful scientist and the birth of such a heaven-defying medicine, it is impossible for the scientist not to know about any news or movements. It can only be said that we are not alone in this universe. Chu Mu said speciously, acting as the riddler for once. How to say? For scientists like Helen Zhao, they do this. As expected, hear Chu Mu talking about the universe. While Zhao Helen was shocked, she also showed an expression of, sure enough, the 30-episode TV series she had imagined had a similar plot. The Roswell incident, what aliens left behind. As for the production data of the original compound number 5 provided by Chu Mu. This must be the research result of another laboratory trying to restore this medicine and then produce it, right? Zhao Hailun looked at the production materials. Compared with perfect no. 5 compound, it was very different, and it was not a complete experiment. Data and information. Once again, I started my own brainstorming. Yes, you were right, that's it. Chu Mu didn't expect that he didn't need any brain cells, so Zhao Hailun naturally helped him figure out the source of the information. I spent a lot of effort to get this information. Don't let me down. We are not the only ones who are trying to reversely restore these potions. Chu Mu plans to add some motivation to Zhao Hailun and make Zhao Hailun produce some sense of urgency. As far as I know, there are many organizations and forces that are already conducting research in secret, including those sponsored by terrorists. Chu Mu made a serious expression. Is that so? Zhao Helen was slightly startled. She felt a little weird, but she couldn't tell what was weird. Her biggest doubt was why she had never heard of this potion, if you press. What Mu is saying now, many forces are studying. So, she should have heard about it too. Before you found me, I didn't know that such a potion existed. This is unreasonable. Zhao Hailun did not suspect that Chu Mu was lying. It's just, I simply have questions and want answers. You definitely don't know. Think about it, if such a potion is developed in batches, how big an impact it will have on the world. The entire world structure will be affected, and it may even cause a third world war. This is already equivalent to an arms race at the national level. As long as the scientists found by them know that this kind of thing exists, they will either join or disappear from the world. Under such circumstances, how could you possibly know about it? Chu Mu told lies in a serious manner without blinking an eye. That's what you said, just like you found me, and I was forced to join the research. Zhao Helen said thoughtfully. She felt that what Chu Mu said made sense. Just like her, and the other scientists under this umbrella, haven't they all signed extremely strict confidentiality agreements? Although personal freedom is not restricted, the company has recruited so many security personnel, and Zhao Hailun also knows how much Chu Mu values it. Think about it. Other organizations and forces should be similar. Also, do you think I am the only successful experimental subject? No, in fact, secretly, many organizations have already cultivated equally successful experimental subjects. Chu Mu is a little expert at creating anxiety and lying. He just opened his mouth and said, "Do you know Spider-Man is very active outside recently? Good guy. Peter Parker gets as much royalties as the New York Times. It's finally time to take it out and lay down your guns." Right. Helen Zhao's eyes widened in disbelief. She definitely knew that there was a good neighbor in New York, Spider-Man, but before Chu Mu spoke, she did not connect Spider-Man with compound number 5 at all. Yes, that's it. Chu Mu gave a very ambiguous answer. Zhao Hailun successfully took the bait. That's it. I asked you why the world has become less and less peaceful recently. There are always all kinds of supernatural things popping up. Zhao Hailun made some associations and successfully connected compound number 5 with various supernatural events. She just felt that she was not smart enough before and failed to think that the reason why the world was not peaceful was because of what she was studying. Compound number 5. Spider-Man is so physically strong and can vomit cobweb. At first glance, he must have been genetically modified. Got connected. Everything is connected. Speaking of which, the skeleton that was on fire before and the life that was suspected to be Angel are also. Zhao Helen's brainstorming gradually improved. Yes, it's all. Chu Mu nodded wildly. Little Spider-Man might have let it slip, but the flaming skeleton and Angel, it wasn't just what he said. Now, he said they were all injected with compound No. 5. Who will object? Zhao Hailun was deceived and became lame. The most important thing is that the imagination in her mind has established a complete logical closed loop. So, regarding the things Chu Mu hinted, she immediately chose to believe it. Otherwise, can anyone explain why there have been so many supernatural events popping up recently? Reality is not a TV show. There won't be any need for plot. Helen Zhao almost guessed the correct answer, but she felt that the answer was very ridiculous and nonsense. What about Dr. Kurt Connors? Helen Zhao thought, since Angel can appear and flaming skeletons can appear, then Compound No the 5th of May also be able to create a lizard man. As a giant, Osborne Industries probably also has compound number 5. Experimental materials. Have to say, a person who has developed a certain kind of logical thinking. This is the performance. You will have no doubt about what you believe in. The so-called telecommunications fraud is actually a routine that creates false logic for the people who are defrauded, and then even smart people like university professors will fall into the trap. Definitely, Chu Mu is not a telecom scammer. He is just the kind of person who, for the sake of employee motivation, would at most be scolded as engaging in a pyramid scheme. Dr. Kurt Connors is not engaged in this research. He became the lizard man he is now because of her own true ability. Chu Mu quickly rejected Zhao Helen's new idea. After all, Kurt Connors was going to join the lab in the future. But you can't use it to fool people. Say it again. Others turn green, get bigger, and get longer based on their own abilities. It's so cold. Kurt Connors deserves this honor. So, did Kurt Connors really come up with a genetic modification method for cross-species mutation? Helen Zhao's expression was quite strange. It's been several days. She didn't even think it through. How Kurt Connors did it. Can he still be saved? Chu Mu felt that she should care about Dr. Lizard. After all, this guy's head is quite valuable to him. Although it is a bit troublesome, with his decay algorithm and his experimental data, it is not impossible to reverse this genetic modification. Helen Zhao said it takes time. Chu Mu nodded. He also knew that this kind of research couldn't be rushed, otherwise, it wasn't like he didn't know the reason why Kurt Connors turned green. Could it be that Osborne was too anxious? Your focus should still be on compound number 5. I will find a few more experts to be responsible for the restoration of Kurt Connors. Chu Mu is not in a hurry about Kurt Connors' status. He just wants to restore compound number 5 this morning and have a company that can continuously provide faith before Thanos comes to Earth. By the time, use Thanos' head as a football. Letting the superheroes play a Thanos Cup is definitely a very good entertainment activity and an opportunity to earn faith. What I understand is that not only do you want to be the one who controls the world, boss, but you also have other competitors who also hold compound number 5. Our progress really needs to improve. Helen Zhao looked through the information. Made a summary. Don't slander me casually, who controls the world but not the world. I just don't want the future destiny to be controlled in the hands of others. In a world full of super able people, it is much better to be the one who makes the rules than to expect others to have mercy on you. Chu Mu looked upright and solemn again. Helen Zhao was noncommittal. She doesn't really care what Chu Mu really thinks. As an adult and a scientist with a high IQ, Helen Zhao also knows that the world has classes, and there will always be someone at the top of the class, as long as that person is not a heinous villain or a second best. A head of state. No matter who this person is, it actually doesn't matter to her. In Zhao Helen's view, Chu Mu is even better than most politicians. This information is a bit old. How long ago did similar research start? Zhao Hailun flipped through the information. I noticed a new blind spot. It started a long time ago, right after the success of the super soldier serum. Many forces were trying to find ways to create similar potions. Compound number 5 is indeed a miracle. It comes from, its appearance also caused some uproar. It's just that the specific situation has been covered up by the senior officials of the Great Free State. Anyway, it is similar to the tragedy of the super soldier serum. The research laboratory is gone, and there are only a lot of finished products left, as well as information that has been scraped around the world. This part of me is quite abundant. Before Chu Mu traveled through time, he was writing novels part-time. Therefore, it was extremely easy for him to make up these stories. He also deliberately created some suspense and cryptic places so that Helen Zhao could not help but think about it, so that he could avoid revealing too many loopholes. Just like this information, you see, it's in Russian. I got it from Russia. Their progress has far surpassed ours. After World War II, they have been secretly studying compound number 5. They definitely thought that compound number 5 was the super soldier serum. Chu Mu started to change the topic. At the same time, he also did not forget to create a sense of urgency for Helen Zhao. Although Helen Zhao is an Asian woman, she received too liberal an ideological education after all. So, for Russia, Helen Zhao, like other people in the great free country, feels that the other party is evil and bad, and they need to fight against it. Are the Russians already so advanced? As expected, Helen Zhao felt nervous as she flipped through the information given by Chu Mu. There is indeed a lot of Russian. In fact, Chu Mu did not lie. This information did come from Russia, but it was the Russia of the black-robed picket world. In the world of black robes, they should be called the former Soviet Union. Mao Zi not only got some information about compound number 5, but also got an experimental subject, Soldier Boy. About it all, it was also mentioned in the information given by Chu Mu, so, how to put it, Chu Mu really didn't want to mislead Zhao Helen. But the atmosphere is here. Zhao Hailun also saw this information, and the soldier boy happened to be mentioned in this information. Oh my god, how is this possible? They actually imprisoned Captain America. Zhao Hailun flipped through the Russian description of the experimental subject and the experimental data. She was shocked, she was appalled, and she felt that her worldview had been subverted. The prisoner described here was none other than Captain America. Turn out to be, Captain America did not die in the Arctic, but was captured by the former Soviet Union for research. Zhao Helen felt for a moment that she had touched a shocking secret. Reminiscent of what Chu Mu just said. Russia thinks that compound number 5 is the super soldier serum, so it makes perfect sense for that guy to use Captain America to fill his eyelids. Forehead. All right. Chu Mu admitted that he had read all the information a long time ago, and also made some deletions and very necessary modifications, crossing out things that may be different between the two worlds. This was his original intention, and it was really not to let Zhao Helen had such a misunderstanding. Quote. Around as Chu Mu's tongue. For a while I couldn't think of how to answer the call. Fortunately, there was no shield in the protective umbrella. Otherwise, he would not be able to explain why Captain America, who should be lying on the Arctic iceberg, appeared in the Soviet experiment records. Indeed, we cannot let some evil forces get such a potion first. It's too scary. He is Captain America who has saved countless people. How dare they treat a hero like this? Helen Zhao was filled with anger, with a look of excitement and dissatisfaction on her face. Anyway, Chu Mu's goal was finally achieved. Judging from the look of this woman, she would definitely not complain about working overtime 24 hours a day. Maybe, you may still feel that 24 hours is not enough. Chu Mu silently plans to leave. After all, the information has been delivered and the chicken blood has been injected, so he can't help the laboratory here in research. Might as well go home and blow on the air conditioner. Just when Chu Mu walked to the door of the laboratory, Helen Zhao, who became full of mission, raised her head. Boss, our scientists are far from enough. To be the first to successfully restore this formula before these organizations and even national forces, we must need more and better talents. The chicken blood in Zhao Hailun's body affirmed. It's already in place. Only, there are not enough scientists. This is the most troublesome thing Chu Mu has heard recently. Did not expect. Now I heard it again, and it has become far from enough. I don't know if this is shooting myself in the foot. I will continue to recruit people. Chu Mu said that he would try his best to spread the money. However, at the moment, some superiors, Helen Zhao, who vowed to avenge Captain America, refused to give up. In addition to top scientists, we also need a lot of laboratory assistants. I have many friends at MIT who are in management positions. I can ask them to arrange for you to give a lecture, and then you must get more college students to come back to our laboratory. Helen Zhao had a serious expression on her face, and Chu didn't know how to refuse. After all, the other party was considering the development of his company and the progress of pharmaceutical research, although the original intention was to avenge Captain America. But in the end, the beneficiary is still Chu Mu. Speech is something. Chu Mu felt that it was a bit too arrogant for a high school dropout to give a speech to the top college students. College students are cheap and easy to use. Moreover, MIT students are very capable, and we need this labor force. Helen Zhao spoke immediately. Chu Mu couldn't refuse. Look, when the other party is looking for assistants, they have to look for cheap college students, so as to save more labor costs for the laboratory. As a boss, I like this kind of staff. Okay, you pick a time and I'll get ready. Chu Mu felt like she was really going to cry to death. It was not that he was moved by Zhao Hailun's mentality of thinking about the company. He knew that Zhao Hailun was saving money and just wanted to spend the funds on research projects. It can't be put back into Chu Mu's trouser pocket, so there is definitely nothing to be moved about. He wanted to cry, but he just knew that he probably wouldn't be able to enjoy the air conditioning at home these days. On a hot day, and I have to give a speech to the best college students in the world. Oh, it's hard to bear. MIT. It is definitely a top institution that many people are familiar with. Many people may think so. Most of the people trained by MIT are physicists. Just like those characters in The Big Bang Theory. In fact, MIT is really good at producing physicists. It does not only have majors in physics and mathematics. Founded in 1861, MIT focused on applied science and engineering in its early days. After World War II, it relied on the research and development needs of the national defense technology of the Great Free State, and rose rapidly. During World War II and the Cold War, MIT researchers made important contributions to the development of computers, radar, and inertial navigation systems. MIT alumni, faculty, and researchers have produced 97 Nobel Prize winners, 8 Fields Medal winners, and Turing Award winners. These are MIT's achievements in physics, engineering, and mathematics. Because of this, many people ignore its other aspects in such a dazzling light. In fact, MIT is one of the most famous universities in the world. 1. His teaching staff, and academic achievement, and the scope of academic coverage. In fact, they are far superior to the equally prestigious Harvard University. Yes, it is also the world's #1 in biology and biochemistry. It is not unreasonable for Helen Zhao to ask Chu Mu to recruit people at MIT. Going to give a speech at such an institution was indeed a bit stressful for Chu Mu. After all, he is a person living in modern society. Even though he has a gold finger and is a chaebol himself, he is still a little worried that he will be embarrassed in front of teachers and students of such a top university because of his lack of knowledge, if something embarrassing really happens. You can't just turn on the laser eyes and kill all the teachers and students who participated in his speech activities to prevent yourself from being laughed at, right? Even a genuine Homelander wouldn't be able to do such a thing. As a descendant of Chu Mu, he still has some limitations compared to Homelander. The best we can do is turn them all into idiots and blow out most of their brain cells. Chu Mu's headshot ability is not just about headshots. It can also mass-produce idiots and mentally retarded people. Definitely, he was just thinking about this idea in his mind. A crazy person would definitely not be so crazy, and Chu Mu was not bound to be embarrassed. He had made a lot of preparations to prevent himself from being embarrassed. First, Homelander's ability is inherited from him. He actually has a low-end version of super brain, with abnormal learning speed like Superman. So Chu Mu only needs to cram in high-end knowledge for a few days, and he will not be embarrassed in his speech. In fact, this is exactly what Chu Mu planned. Don't look at Homelander in the black robe world, he behaves like a giant baby who lacks common sense in life. Actually, that's just Homelander too lazy to learn. A low-end version of super brain. Still a super brain. The learning speed is far beyond the imagination and cognition of Superman. No, in just 4 or 5 days, Chu Mu still had a serious PhD in biology, a PhD in physics, and a PhD in biochemistry. Average level of degree holders. Don't think it's an exaggeration. The learning speed of super brain is so incredible. It's just that the learning speed can only be the learning speed, and you still need some ability to do scientific research. That is not something that can be solved with super brain alone. Therefore, Chu Mu can only turn himself into a knowledgeable person, but cannot do it himself. He can use the learning ability of super brain to restore various research projects, recipe. This kind of thing. The real Superman probably wouldn't be able to do it. Otherwise, Krypton will no longer have a professional distinction between scientists and warriors. There is a saying that is good, that is, a person without scientific research ability, no matter how much knowledge he learns, he can only have his own era, and unable to transcend one's own time. This is probably the case for Chu Mu, but he never thought that he would end up doing scientific research. Zhao Hailun's 24-hour non-stop life was not what he wanted. For Helen, maybe really can it be regarded as a blessing. After being deceived by Chu Mu, Zhao Helen, who was filled with a sense of justice, did not want to rest even if Chu Mu asked her to. I like this kind of employee. Chu Mu found a more reliable workforce than S.H.I.E.L.D. agent. Feeling great. The sadness of still not catching good fish these days has been diluted a lot. Chu Mu felt that maybe he would have a bad time in the future. Otherwise, why is it that no matter how much he worships himself these days, the only things he catches are someone's clothes and a scrapped car and the like? White, white, still white, even if you want to be green, it won't turn green at all. On a new day, Chu Mu went fishing again. This time, he successfully turned green, only. Still not the color he wanted. Blue Eagle's heart, an extremely strong Superman-like heart, which comes from the inside of the body of Locomotive, a retired member of the Super 7. Good guy. The heart of the Blue Eagle was pulled out of the Locomotive's body. Chu Mu knew that Locomotive had transplanted the heart of another superhero, but he didn't expect that this time he fished it out directly. One thing to say, If it weren't for not being able to enter the world of black robes. Chu Mu really wants to see the locomotive after his heart was fished out, is it okay? Shouldn't it just be like this? It's of no use to me. Send it to the laboratory. It should have some research value. Chu Mu had already found a good reason. These were the transformed people of the 10 evil organizations that he had defeated. He was also a Superman who had taken compound number 5. Because he wanted to do some evil things, he was beaten to pieces by his overflowing sense of justice. There is only such a heart left. Chu Mu feels that her ability to make up lies is getting better and better, and she doesn't know if Helen Zhao, who knows the truth, will cry. There were no surprises in transporting the heart. Chu Mu did not stay at Umbrella Biotechnology for long, mainly because Helen Zhao had no doubts about his words. During the process of detecting the number 5 compound reactive substance in the heart, Zhao Heilanshi kept reminding Chu Mu to fool more people when he went to MIT tomorrow. Just because Helen Zhao kept nagging so much, Chu Mu stayed for a while and then left. Is Chu Mu the kind of person who likes to deceive others? I seem to be really. I don't know if it's because I'm going to give a lecture at a university and my mentality has become much younger. After Chu Mu returned home, she had an incredible youth dream. He dreamed that Thanos came to the Earth and he became the hero of the Earth. After killing Thanos, the big devil, he was just about to return to ordinary life. As a result, he found that Thanos had already snapped his fingers, and everyone on the Earth had turned into giants. Confucian Demon King. Fear. It's so scary. The world is full of shaky steamed buns. Wearing student uniform. Why? This dream is indeed too youthful. It can only be said that Chu Mu has a lot of heart but not enough strength. The time in the dream really passed too fast. Before he could kill all the demon kings in uniform, the alarm clock in the villa woke him up from his sleep. It was customary to come here to fish, and to throw away the white garbage harvested. Chu Mu also dressed herself up carefully after washing herself. The driver Johnny came to pick him up, with dark circles on his face. He didn't know where to go racing last night, so he sent Chu Mu to MIT. The whole journey is about 500 kilometers and takes more than 5 hours of driving. However, this is only for ordinary drivers. Johnny was obviously not an ordinary driver. After driving out of the city, he reached an unmonitored area in the wilderness. He directly transformed into a ghost rider, set the entire Rolls-Royce on fire, and sent Chu Mu to Ma with great fanfare. Massachusetts, where the Provincial Institute of Technology is located. Yes, Ghost Rider. Work as a groomman here in Chu Mu. No wonder Johnny's eyes were full of resentment. Change back before entering the city, so as not to scare the people there. Chu Mu is going to teach science to scientists this time. He must not show up at the scene in a Rolls-Royce, a servant of God, with a skull emitting white fire. If that is the case, the atmosphere was definitely very awkward. Science. Maybe it becomes K Shui. Hello fellow students, maybe some of you have already asked about me, or maybe some of you already know who I am, Qian Li's. Definitely, there must be many classmates who don't know me. What I want to say is, it doesn't matter, I am not a celebrity. Not a Nobel Prize winner either. Whether you have known me before or not, I am very grateful that you can come to listen to my speech today. I am not a famous scholar, and I may be a little bit less famous among many people. In his eyes, I'm just a rich fool. This is indeed the case. I have not graduated from high school, so I ask you, the future pillars of society, to stare at the sun that is more than 30 degrees Celsius and listen to my beep. To call me an asshole does fit nicely. Chu Mu talks about the traditional nonsense of the great free country. Not that he wants to say this, but these are indeed what the people of the great free country like to hear. This is true of all classes of free men. Look, these doctors all laughed out loud at the speech that was so outrageous and flavorful. It seemed that they had a good impression of Chu. Can become president. Comrade Chuan Zhengguo's ability still has a large audience. At least, even if you treat this kind of speech as a talk show or crosstalk. That's also very good. Chu Mu definitely didn't come here to talk about crosstalk, but to shorten the distance between herself and her students. It was very helpful to him, to deceive the labor force. After some nonsense, Chu Mu also started to use his ultimate move. He started fishing. Definitely, in order to have a pleasant conversation with you, I have done some homework at home for a few days, and I have some pretty good knowledge about the majors you are studying. At least it shouldn't be too embarrassing, no, as for making everyone think I'm a monkey. Chu Mu's words. In his opinion, it's actually quite euphemistic. Only, in the ears of these proud students, they feel that Chu Mu is a bit arrogant. What does it mean to have a good understanding of their major after studying for a few days? What an ignorant person can say this? As expected, chaebols are just chaebols, and it is simply impossible to communicate with them. Many people showed a bit of disdain in their eyes at the moment. How to say? It's not because Chu Mu wants to show off, it has nothing to do with Chu Mu having expected it. Well, it's not because Chu Mu is deliberately fishing. Anyway, some people really can't bear it anymore. There was dissatisfaction among the students with Chu Mu, and naturally some people wanted to see Chu Mu's jokes. One of them raised his hand and asked a physics question, whitening his name, and wanted to communicate with Chu Mu. In fact, I just want to see Chu Mu's jokes. This is a very professional question. People who raised doubts expected Chu Mu to take out his mobile phone and use Google, and then found a lot of professional terms that he couldn't read, which was funny. As everyone knows, English, whether it is American or traditional, has a shortcoming that is ignored by many sheepdogs and is simply not as good as Chinese. That is, there are too many words in English, and there are many professional specific nouns that people across majors cannot understand and may even be unable to spell. Over time, professional words are born every day. If someone who is not a professional in this field sees it, it will be no different from reading a book from heaven. The student held back his anger and asked questions involving many professional terms. He expected to see Chu Mu scratching his head in embarrassment. However, I happened to study the question you mentioned yesterday. I think Chu Mu completely surprised these people and started talking. He is confident, calm, and his voice is neither urgent nor slow. He expressed his views on this physics problem without having a speech or taking out his mobile phone. Clear thinking, full of professionalism. Many students were shocked. Such a level even made many physics professors look at him with suspicion. Sir, I heard that your new company is engaged in biological research. I don't know what you think about. Another PhD in biology stood up. He must have heard some rumors. After all, Chu Mu spent $500,000 spreading gossip before coming to school. Your question is relatively superficial. I believe you only need to look through your textbook, The Concept of Biology and the Secret of Cells, page 162 and line 76, and you will get the answer to your question. All right, Chu Mu did it on purpose. If he doesn't show off. How to get feedback from these students with jaw-dropping expressions? Why do you see professors in those schools with wide-eyed expressions of disbelief? It's really like this. A top student who brought a textbook with him flipped through it, and he soon confirmed Chu Mu's words. The whole hall was in an uproar. Everyone found it incredible that a chaebol actually straddled two majors, but he answered two difficult questions. And the latter question, in which book is the answer clearly stated? Chu Mu's tone just now. The sound just now. It didn't make anyone suspect that he was being blind. This kind of blindness is definitely wrong. People who study probability can be sure of this. Is he saying that he didn't graduate from high school? It's a lie. He probably didn't graduate from high school and was admitted to some university under special circumstances. Otherwise, wouldn't it make us look stupid? Yeah, it seems like he knows more than us. Who is the doctoral student? In the venue, chirping discussion. Everyone was shocked. And such a situation. This is exactly what Chu Mu wants to see. All walks of life are being crazily involved, and he wants to catch as many of these outstanding talents as possible. How could he not do something creative and show off? After all, after spending a few days studying hard, Chu Mu just wanted to integrate himself into these people and let them know that he is a boss who can communicate and can be regarded as a similar type of boss. Doing science. What I'm most afraid of is a boss who doesn't understand anything and just pushes the progress. No, Chu Mu's performance has impressed many students. Even some professors and experts are asking people around them what projects this big boss from New York is currently researching in China. Obviously, experts and professors all have ideas about Chu Mu. don't think wrongly, it's just the idea that communication will be easier when working under such a person. The rhythm of the scene. It is developing in the direction Chu Mu wants. If nothing else goes wrong, he will definitely be able to return with contracts for a large number of talents when he goes back tomorrow. Really, without any surprises, Chu Mu's wishful thinking will definitely be very loud. However, who told this to be Marvel? Marvel Universe. The seemingly peaceful Earth is basically either experiencing accidents or brewing accidents. At the moment, an accident is also brewing. MIT, a laboratory in a scientific research building. At the moment, all irrelevant personnel have been driven away, leaving only the main members of the laboratory, as well as a large number of SHIELD agents and military soldiers. A piece of black water. If most students hadn't gone to watch Chu Mu's speech now, there would have been many students watching here. Definitely, that happens. Students will certainly be driven away as well. After all, the SHIELD agents and military soldiers were all ready, their expressions extremely dignified and serious. One can imagine, what is going on here must be very dangerous. SHIELD, they have people everywhere, don't let me catch who leaked the secret, otherwise I will send that person to go to Houston and grow potatoes. Roared loudly in front of the laboratory door. Man is the leader of the military. General Ross. Thaddeus E. Ross, known as Thunderbolt General Ross. He is a U.S. Air Force Lieutenant General. He is also the father of Betty Ross, wife of Bruce Banner, the Hulk. This guy doesn't know if he is devoting his life to capturing the Hulk in order to avenge his son-in-law who stole his daughter. He definitely always failed for various reasons. In order to defeat the Hulk, it can be said that he has been thinking of various ways throughout his life. The dangers associated with the appearance of such a figure at MIT are obviously self-evident. BGEI. The experimental subject in the laboratory at the moment is Hulk. Strictly speaking, it's Dr. Banner who hasn't turned into the Hulk yet. He is also a senior dog licker. In order to see the woman he loves, he does not hesitate to put himself in danger and comes to this laboratory to accept research and restoration by the military. Yes, this experiment is conducted by the military. Therefore, General Ross was so angry about the emergence of SHIELD. General, I hope you can recognize the facts clearly. This is no longer just a matter for the military, but is related to the safety of the entire world. We're here to help you clean up your mess. SHIELD Agent Commissioner Phil Coulson, who was also monitoring the scene with his own troops, spoke to General Ross in a low voice without politeness. His personnel, a group of people, were following the military to guard the scene to prevent emergencies. To this end, he also brought SHIELD's most advanced weapons. And another part of the staff. Then he joined the scientific research team of the laboratory. Said it was assistance. In fact, adults should understand the truth. I don't need your help. If I hadn't made a mistake, none of you would even think of appearing on my territory. General Ross hates SHIELD agents. It's not that he doesn't trust SHIELD's professionalism, but these people will always take the cake from their military. This leaves many people in the military who do not hate SHIELD. However, SHIELD has higher authority, so they can only gnash their teeth at SHIELD. Since it is assistance, you should take care of your people and don't let me catch their little tricks, otherwise I will not give you good fruits. General Ross did not want to continue the theory with Phil Coulson, so he turned and walked into the laboratory. Then, he saw a scene that made him feel even worse. At the moment, Betty Ross, who was used as the bait and was also the person in charge of this experimental project, had not seen her beloved boyfriend for several years. It's obvious what will happen. Anyway, if you write deeply, you will have to pay, but if you write shallowly, it will not be enough to restore the picture. The two douchebags have not seen each other for almost 5 years. If they meet, they will definitely either break up or have an affair. It's just that Banner always turned green, and the laboratory environment didn't allow it, so Betty Ross didn't get angry with Banner. Therefore, we can only hold each other together to relieve the excitement in our hearts. It is also excusable. Banner. General Ross saw that the experiment was still being prepared. He turned around with an ugly expression, but decided to go find SHIELD to vent his anger. At the scene, only a couple of dog and man were left talking about their longing. Such a description. The picture suddenly became a lot more artistic. Actually, speaking of Betty Ross, this should be the most important person to Banner. She also plays a very important role in the plotline of the Hulk. When Hulk was born, she was a witness. Now, when Bruce plans to kill Hulk, she plans to become a participant. Are you ready? After Betty and Banner had enough kisses, she also began to plan to help her boyfriend get out of pain. This was also helping herself. No one knew how uncomfortable she had been in the past 5 years. I'm ready. Banner took a deep breath and said. He probably also wanted to get rid of Hulk and communicate with Betty, so his belief and attitude were extremely firm. If the Hulk inside him doesn't call him a fool, Hulk is considered a buddy and interesting enough. As Betty carefully checked the experimental preparations for the last time, the experiment to restore Banner to normal and use gamma rays to eliminate Hulk has entered the stage that is about to begin. This is a dangerous experiment, as everyone knows. According to the laws of the Marvel Universe, the more dangerous something is, the more likely it is to happen. Perhaps it is already foreseeable what will happen next. When the special medicine was injected into Banner's body, Betty opened the experimental equipment with confidence, and strong gamma rays penetrated Banner's body. So, the radiation began to affect Bruce's functions, causing him to struggle constantly. Various parameter instruments were pulled around by this huge force, making all kinds of discordant sounds. The frightened researchers who noticed something was wrong stepped back. Stop. This is not normal. Phil Coulson expected it. Betty also noticed something was wrong. However, before she could stop the experiment, I saw. Bruce's whole body was green, and his blood vessels became thicker and greener. His clothes were slowly torn off as his body grew larger. Hulk doesn't like you as a woman. Green monster. Appearing again, getting bigger and bigger. Betty was horrified to discover that her experiment seemed to have failed to eliminate the Hulk. Instead, it made my boyfriend bigger, and more ferocious. Hulk appears. That represents destruction and anger. Dr. Banner, whose body expanded and changed in the laboratory, became Hulk, due to the drug and gamma rays just now. His body size has become much larger than normal. That means Chu Mu is not here. Otherwise, I would have to be amused by this group of people seeking death. Hulk is the product of gamma rays, but he actually wants to use gamma rays to kill Hulk. This is inappropriate, just like trying to use a sheep to kill a lion. Not surprisingly, Hulk gets epic buffs. He ripped off the straps on his body and roared to the sky. Dr. Banner, who has turned into Hulk, raged without control. The experimental cabin, originally made of super alloy, was like a bubble in front of Hulk's terrifying strength. He tore apart the device that trapped him with one stroke. No, Banner, don't do this. Betty attempts to use love to influence the angry Hulk. Women always feel that true love is invincible and that true love can resolve all crises. However, roar, Hulk just looked back, took a deep look at Betty in the observation room, and then knocked directly out of the laboratory wall. Masonry splash. A huge gap 7 or 8 meters high was left on the wall. Banner, Banner, Betty cried and shouted at Hulk's back. She wanted to catch up, but she was stopped by the people sent by General Ross to protect him. What a joke. Do you really think you can influence such a monster? This is not a TV series or movie. The soldier who held Betty was speechless and full of contempt for the daughter of his immediate boss. Definitely, he didn't dare to show it, he just complained about Betty's love brain in his heart. Stop him. We have to stop him. Seeing such a huge creature escaping from restraint, the soldiers of the military and the agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. couldn't help but feel a little panicked. It's true that they are experienced in combat. But facing such a monster, neither soldiers nor agents have any combat experience. Don't let him get away. This is the university. The city is outside. Phil Coulson was the first to react and gave instructions to the agents. General Ross, who was on the side, also saw this and quickly ordered the soldiers to open fire. The target is extremely dangerous. For the safety of citizens and students, various weapons are allowed to be used to counterattack. Hurry up and bring the ultrasonic cannon truck over. General Ross's roar also woke the soldiers. Da da da. Soldiers and agents accepted the order, despite the fear in my heart. But he still had to bite the bullet and rush forward. All of a sudden, all kinds of firepower flew, including rifles, machine guns, rockets, and Vulcan-like Gatling cannons. Countless ammunition was poured on Hulk, but unfortunately it did not have a very good effect. Hulk did seem to be in some pain, but the seemingly ferocious firepower did not really hurt his flesh and skin. Apart from stimulating his greater ferocity, it has no effect whatsoever. It is not unreasonable for Hulk to be called the strongest Avenger. Under the influence of gamma rays, he has turned into a high-level new life form. Hulk has super regeneration ability, and his vital organs will not be damaged or destroyed. Can regenerate. It can be said to be immune to almost all forms of human attacks. He is also immune to all diseases, poisons, and can survive extreme temperatures. I have to say that apart from being unable to control myself, this can definitely be called a powerful evolution. Banner gained unparalleled strength and physique. Hulk is also very fast. And there is no limit to Hulk's improvement. The angrier he is, the more powerful he becomes. When Hulk's anger reaches the extreme, it will remain in a stable state, usually called Green or World Destroyer, and will have enough power to destroy the Earth. The terrifying power. Definitely, this is a difficult condition to achieve. Hulk in his normal state is actually not weak either. As long as the anger reaches a certain level, the ultimate strength of the physical body can lift a huge mountain. What is this concept? It's almost as powerful as Homelander. Ho! Facing all kinds of heavy firepower attacks, Hulk roared, becoming more and more angry in his heart. In pain, he grabbed an ultrasonic cannon truck and smashed it into the crowd. The weight of the ultrasonic gun carriage is comparable to that of a medium-sized tank. Therefore, more than 10 agents and soldiers who had no time to dodge were directly smashed into pulp. What kind of monster is this? It's no use. Our attacks are of no use to him. Oh my God, he killed Robert. He killed Major Robert. The scene became very chaotic at one point. Hulk's skin, which was the target, did not break any defense under the attack of the new era. Instead, the sparks from the collision of bullets began to shine. This made many soldiers and agents feel numb. But, fortunately, the military instinct of these people has not been defeated. They are all elite troops. Therefore, even if there is some collapse, they still maintain their firepower output. And such behavior, obviously it still can't have much impact on Hulk. Their attacks only hindered some of Hulk's speed of action, and had little effect. On the contrary, they made Hulk feel more angry and excited. Hulk has become stronger again, almost reaching a height of 10 meters. You disgusting fellows, Hulk growled, under the sky that was starting to turn gloomy. Huge amounts of figures completely tore up the burning pieces of clothing on his body, and for some unknown reason, his pants were still between his legs. These pants can actually get bigger as Hulk gets bigger. I have to say that it is definitely an unsolved mystery to some extent. Go to hell, you bad guys. There is nothing but anger in the green eyes. Hulk wantonly destroyed the tanks on the ground, not hiding his manic and burning anger. He was hit in the eye by a rocket. In pain, his figure seemed to grow a little bigger, and he jumped in front of the tank that released the rocket. I saw. Hulk grabbed the chariot with both hands, just like holding a brick. He picked it up casually and directed it towards another area that was firing at him. On sight. A mess. Horrible. Seeing that the situation was not good, Phil Coulson and General Ross also quickly called for rescue. In the conference hall in the distance, Chu Mu was still giving a speech passionately, but he has successfully gained many fans and established an image of himself as a knowledgeable, talented and wealthy person. And he also successfully made many MIT students feel that he is a conscientious entrepreneur. He is a highly conscious person who is willing to spend money for the advancement of mankind. Seeing that the goal is almost achieved, these leaks can be harvested immediately. No, strictly speaking, a considerable amount of cheap labor has been recruited. Boom, movements that ordinary people cannot hear at all. But it suddenly reached Chu Mu's ears. There was a slight pause in his speech. Without the students, professors and experts in this hall noticing, he had already stabilized his body's super hearing and realized something was wrong. Somewhere in this school, there were not just reports of fierce exchanges of fire. There was also the sound of tanks, and it was difficult for Chu Mu not to pay attention. What happened? While Chu Mu continued to speak, he couldn't help but frown. I just wanted to use my supervision to see what's going on in the distance through walls. However, wow, before Chu Mu could look over. In the guild hall, an extremely harsh alarm sounded. What happened? The alarm has gone off. Could it be that some terrorists have broken into the school? Could it be that some laboratory virus was leaked? Fire. Please God, it's just a fire. The guild hall was originally very harmonious. The students, professors and doctors suddenly became commotion. Someone leaned to the window to look. Then, there were screams and exclamations one after another. Monster. Finally, those bio guys finally created a monster. Oh my God, what kind of secret experiment is the school doing? Someone come and save us. This kind of monster, we need Ultraman. The hall became increasingly chaotic. Everyone screamed and ran out of the clubhouse, trying to run towards the outside of the school, but there was no way. Huge amounts of sound and fierce gunfire were getting closer and closer to their side. Chu also looked over, and even without using supervision, he found a large green figure. Quote. Chu Mu recognized the figure wreaking havoc on campus at a glance. He was a little stunned. How could Hulk appear on the MIT campus? And, it looks like the situation is out of control. Chu Mu looked at the guild hall, which was almost deserted. All the audience that was originally packed had disappeared. A girl who just said she admired him was running towards the outside door. I also disliked him for blocking another exit. Please give way. The girl yelled angrily, bypassed Chu Mu, and rushed towards the backstage exit door. There are many people running away from Chu Mu like her. Run, sir, that kind of monster. It's so scary. Some kind-hearted people also reminded Chu Mu, who seemed to have not recovered yet. Really, the scene was chaotic. Only Chu Mu stood calmly on the stage. It's no wonder that some people think Chu Mu was scared out of his wits. How can I put it? Chu Mu definitely can't be scared by a mere Hulk. He just felt a little uncomfortable. Because of a speech in MLM that should have been successful, Chu Mu was immediately ready to reap the fruits of victory, but he never expected to be interrupted by such a sudden change. The military's support is not slow. Someone on the ground also organized students and professors to evacuate to avoid the disaster. After all, these people are not the kind of people at the bottom who can be sacrificed at any time. They are the future hope of the country and the current elite of society. Therefore, the military has done a good job in protecting students and professors. Basically, no innocent people were injured. They were all evacuated from the school and transported to safer places by vehicles designated by the military. Chu Mu also withdrew. He didn't have any assets here, so he didn't have to help the military clean up the mess. In fact, it started when he saw Hulk. He probably understood what happened. It's just that the military wanted to use Hulk for experiments, and then it failed again. This kind of thing. This is not the first time this has happened to the military. Chu Mu was sitting on the evacuation bus, evacuating with other shocked students. Definitely, it is different from those students and professors who are either excited, scared, or full of fear. Chu Mu's mood did not fluctuate much. Instead, still in a slightly bad mood, he just tried to recruit the people in the same car, but the other people were not in a stable mood now and couldn't understand what he was saying. Can only say, Chu Mu felt that she might have prepared for so many days in vain. This speech was completely beyond his expectations. I don't know if I can interact with Zhao Hailun after returning to the May 10th office. Although Chu Mu is the boss, the person in charge of research is Zhao Hailun. Anyone who has experienced it knows it. The boss is afraid that his employees will get angry because of this kind of thing, but he will not fight back. After all, the other people who are so serious are working for you. This Ross with a brain problem. If he didn't cause trouble a long time ago, he has to cause trouble today. Although Chu Mu was riding on the bus that was gradually moving away from the college. But, with his current supervision, you can still penetrate the bus and see the battle between Hulk and the military in the distance in the direction of the school. Boom! The direction where Hulk was already under fire. Waves of fire roared. Several armed helicopters and supersonic fighter jets kept erupting flames in the air, and military tanks also gathered in this direction. This monster, can we really defeat it? There were soldiers looking at the modern armored vehicles that were constantly being destroyed, as well as the fighter jets and helicopters that crashed one after another after being slapped to the ground by Hulk. He immediately collapsed completely and burst into tears. At this time, a heavily armed soldier with a gloomy expression came up and slapped him. "Do you still look like a soldier?" Emil Blonsky scolded his companion loudly, looking down on the soldier. "He is the king of soldiers in the army. All the time. The prestige is very high." Therefore, the soldiers who were scolded by him did not dare to refute. He could only grit his teeth, pick up the weapon again, and launch a meaningless attack on Hulk in the distance. "You maintain the firepower. I want this stupid big guy to know how powerful he is." Emil Blonsky is an extremely proud guy. True, when I saw Hulk just now, he was also shocked for a long time. After all, he was personally brought here by General Ross to form such a special stress force, but he never knew that he would face such a monster. Although he knew how powerful Hulk was, Emil Blonsky's pride still did not allow him to bow to a guy like Hulk. So, Emil Blonsky is full of fighting spirit and confidence. "I feel that with my ability and wisdom, I can definitely kill the Hulk who has no brute force." How to say, this is an example of lack of self-awareness. Chu Mu is on the bus in the distance. I also noticed that this courageous soldier definitely had such amazing courage and confidence that even the singer named Liang could not give him. Can only say, it's not for nothing that this guy is one of Marvel's biggest jokes. Many people may not know the name Emil Blonsky, but when it comes to Abomination, most people may not be unfamiliar with it. Emil Blonsky is the soldier who will be transformed into Abomination. Taste my power. Emil Blonsky climbed onto a tank and began to control the weapons on it, madly attracting Hulk's hatred. He always believed that he was the strongest soldier, so he did not allow himself to fail. Not to mention that the reason for failure is that the opponent is stronger than him. No one can surpass him. Biochemical modification of people is not possible either. This is what Emil Blonsky has always thought. Bold and ignorant. Emil Blonsky uses a large-caliber special howitzer for armored vehicles, which is extremely powerful. He was very sure that this kind of attack could cause harm to Hulk. However, bang, the special howitzer did hit Hulk, causing Hulk to stumble and fall to the ground. There was also a huge amount of dust on the ground. Before Emil Blonsky could get happy, in the midst of the diffuse dust and mist, Hulk's angry and terrifying roar sounded. This is really a joke. Chu Mu was on the bus far away, looking at Emil Blonsky with a proud smile on his face. He felt that he had completed the identification, and it was clear that this person was a pure retard. Among the dust, Chu Mu saw that Hulk's skin was not damaged at all. Moreover, there is no harm in smoke. Don't you understand this? Hulk doesn't like you. Emil Blonsky has not been proud for too long. Chu Mu saw Hulk roaring and rushed out of the smoke. Ignoring the attacks from other armed forces, Hulk ran directly in the direction of Emil Blonsky. Bang, bang, bang. Emil Blonsky watched Hulk rushing over. Not only was he not afraid, but he laughed excitedly, and then constantly fired howitzers at Hulk. This kind of attack on the body is probably really painful. Therefore, Hulk, a reckless man with a low IQ, did not choose to continue to resist with his body. Don't look at how big he is. Don't look at him for being bulky. Actually, Hulk is also a flexible fat man. He easily dodged several howitzers, and even grabbed a helicopter to intercept a howitzer he couldn't dodge. A burst of firework. The helicopter was blown apart by a howitzer. Hulk also rushed straight to the armored vehicle where Emil Blonsky was. Along the way, tanks and planes blocking the road were smashed into discus discs by his fists. Or just fly away. Hulk's goal is extremely clear. Hulk wants you to apologize. Hulk smashed into the armored car where Emil Blonsky was. Maybe people named Skial have the same trait, they can run. Emil Blonsky is also worthy of being the military's ace soldier. In a mortal body, he also matched the gods. Having finally caught up with the Hulk's speed, Emil Blonsky jumped out of the car decisively after the Hulk approached, rolled several times on the ground in embarrassment, and managed to escape before the armored car was smashed into scrap metal. Got out. Emil Blonsky just ran away. The next moment, the armored vehicle was directly smashed by Hulk. This process was extremely thrilling. However, Emil Blonsky still did not learn a lesson. Instead, he felt that he was great and could fight guerrilla warfare against such a monster. Probably living in his own battlefield world, Emil Blonsky climbed into another manned-armed tank. Trash. Let me do it. Emil Blonsky felt that he was the only savior. During the gunfire, he threw away the driver who was driving the tank. Just got into the driver's seat, aiming the gun barrel at Hulk's eyes. Boom, 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 another series of seemingly ferocious bombardments. This serves a purpose. Chu Mu watched the battle from a distance. I just feel very happy. Especially when Emil Blonsky screams things like, "Go to hell, monster." Those who don't know may think that Emil Blonsky is making a Hollywood movie. No, Emil Blonsky disabled another tank, but this guy's ability to escape was absolutely perfect, and he successfully escaped from the tank again. Still persevering, he turned to the next armed vehicle. Can only say, the role he played, that is, a gritty taunt. The yelling was loud. The effect it may have is not much better than others. How scary is Hulk when he lets his hands and feet go? That is the serious and invincible king of destruction. They are enough armed forces for a small-scale local war, and they are unable to do anything to Hulk. Only those sound cannon weapons can have the slightest effect on Hulk. Only, it just made Hulk feel a little uncomfortable. After Hulk roared in pain, these sound cannon weapons were destroyed by him one after another. At this time, the noise caused by the long-term shelling has also attracted the attention of the media, but the media did not dare to get close. They were flying in a helicopter far away. A live broadcast of the dangerous area began, and photography helicopters were circling around the outside of the blockade. Occasionally, these reporters will give Hulk a big close-up and look into the camera to question what kind of research the Great Free State is conducting without the public knowledge. Public opinion is definitely ignited. Even if the military wanted to blockade the country, it would be impossible to block it successfully. This made Ross realize the seriousness of the problem. Is this all you, S.H.I.E.L.D., can do? At the edge of the battlefield, a surveillance vehicle has now become a temporary command post. General Ross looks at the unoptimistic situation on the battlefield. He also frowned and became a little anxious. Even the specially made ultrasonic cannon doesn't work. He has no way to deal with Hulk. He can only hope that S.H.I.E.L.D. can deal with it. How to say? Although General Ross doesn't like S.H.I.E.L.D., he has to admit that in this case, S.H.I.E.L.D. may be the only one who can save the situation. We are coordinating with a lady, she may come to help. Phil Coulson said helplessly and vaguely. He was so shaken by General Ross that there was nothing he could do. Therefore, it can only reveal some rumors. Just obviously. General Ross did not appreciate it. Are you kidding? A woman? You expect a woman to save the situation? Did you not wake up or did I? Look outside. Look what kind of monster we are facing. General Ross roared loudly, his voice full of excitement and anger. There is one thing that makes Phil Coulson really want to scold him. Hulk wasn't created by S.H.I.E.L.D. Why is Ross still here beeping? That's no ordinary lady. Trust me, you will see miracles happen. It's just that Phil Coulson has undergone professional training and will not get angry easily under normal circumstances. He showed his iconic smile. Not much to say. He had nothing good to say about people like Rose. Now, Phil Coulson wants to wait for the magical girl that Nick Fury recruited as soon as possible. Perhaps, only that powerful being can subdue the raging Hulk. The intervention of the media naturally indicates that news has begun to be broadcast across the country. Hello everyone, I am Jessica, a reporter from New York TV. Now my team and I are broadcasting the anomalies happening at MIT live for the whole country. On a helicopter far away, the beautiful female host looked serious. As you can see, our country is conducting evil research again. God, it's really hard for me to imagine what kind of biochemical research is required to create such a monster. The military obviously can't clean up the mess they made. They are risking our lives and using their extremely evil experiments to destroy our originally peaceful and safe life. Jessica looked sad and worried. Her words also caused some panic among the people, especially in response to the fierce battlefield in the distance. Hulk is like a terrifying giant beast, killing gods and Buddhas. Modern warfare methods have no effect on him. Emil Blonsky, the king of soldiers who was active on the battlefield, could not escape the fate of being successfully hit by Hulk at some point. He actually ran out of the tank in time, but Hulk also became a little smarter. He picked up a chariot and smashed the running Emil Blonsky into the ground. Emil Blonsky's body was damaged. Half of his body was hanging on the broken chariot, and he was already in a state where there was more air coming out and less air coming in. After all, his body was mortal, still couldn't withstand Hulk's casual hit. The only device that has some effect on Hulk is the newly added sound cannon truck. More sound cannon trucks than before joined the battle. Hulk is also a fool, and he fell into the encirclement of the sound cannon truck without any thought. With the onset of the sound cannon truck, huge amounts of sound waves enveloped How 16 grams. Finally, Hulk, who was wreaking havoc, temporarily stopped destroying and expanding the war zone. Ah! Hulk screamed in pain. Under a strong enough sonic attack, he felt like his brain was going to explode. He struggled to grab the armored vehicle on the ground and smash the sonic cannon trucks. Don't let him attack. Increase the power. Seeing that the sonic cannon truck temporarily restrained Hulk, General Ross also looked happy. He quickly issued orders loudly to his men. He doesn't expect anything from S.H.I.E.L.D. These guys definitely want to see his jokes, otherwise how could he possibly say that he found 10 ladies to support him? General Ross doesn't think a woman can restrain the Hulk. Even his daughter can't do it, and Hulk is not a guy who can't walk when he sees a beautiful woman. It's no use, even Marilyn Monroe is here. I still have to rely on myself. General Ross gave Phil Coulson a disgusted look. He felt that the situation at the scene was effectively controlled, and Hulk had already fallen to the ground. More big. General Ross continued the order. The soldiers in the sonic car also obeyed the order immediately. Although this kind of excessive use may cause irreversible damage to the equipment, they don't care about their own equipment anymore. The sound waves are getting stronger. Hulk was in more and more pain. The anger in him, it is also becoming more and more surging. It can be seen with the naked eye that Hulk's original body of about 10 meters has grown a lot. Hulk hates you. Hulk roared and slapped the ground. The ground cracked and dust and mist filled the air. He endured the pain, roared, grabbed an armored vehicle and smashed it towards the sonic vehicle. At the same time, he also struggled with severe pain and rolled up from the ground. Then with a leap, the whole person smashed into the area where the sound wave attacked him from another direction. In front of Hulk, no matter what materials the sonic car is made of, it's just like paper. In an instant, more than a dozen sonic cars were turned into scrap metal. The pressure dropped sharply. Hulk shows off his power again. As Hulk ran and got angry, countless tanks and armor were directly overturned by him, and the war had spread to the field outside the academy. Fortunately, there are no citizens around anymore. Only the buildings in the city were destroyed, and blazing flames rose from the ground. Countless tanks and armored vehicles exploded, and all those sonic vehicles were destroyed. After the most advantageous anti-personnel weapon against Hulk was gone. Hulk is naturally irresistible. We should leave quickly. Our firepower cannot suppress this monster for the time being. The command post is not far from where Hulk shows off his power. Therefore, a staff officer made suggestions to General Ross. At the same time, Phil Coulson had organized S.H.I.E.L.D. agents to evacuate with him. Their ordinary weapons will not have any effect if they stay here. Phil Coulson only hopes that the girl Nick Fury recruits is really capable. He could probably guess that the so-called trump card girl must be a super ability person. Only, Phil Coulson isn't sure if super abilities can fight monsters like the Hulk. It's not like I don't have a trump card. Call the soldiers below. Let him outside the city. I want to end it with him completely. While General Ross was watching the battle, he was also watching the live news on the TV station. He knew that his career was probably over. Therefore, he was a little hysterical and a little desperate. The MITs of this world are not that far from the middle of nowhere. Therefore, after General Ross issued the order, the army also immediately began to implement it. Banner's IQ is beyond doubt, but Hulk's IQ is somewhat unsatisfactory. He didn't see that this was a trap. Following the troops that he hated, he quickly left the city. What are you up to? Before Phil Coulson left, saw the madness on General Ross's face. He had some bad premonitions. I am saving a mistake, and I am also saving our homeland. General Ross looked firmly in his eyes and gave the order to activate the nuclear bomb. As a general with real power, he has the authority to launch a small-yield nuclear bomb. Now, General Ross is preparing to use nuclear bombs to end the crazy Hulk. Is there something wrong with your brain? Are you using nuclear bombs on the land of the Great Free State? Phil Coulson was directly frightened by General Ross's madness. What a joke. Use nuclear bombs. The current public opinion is terrible enough, but you still want to do this kind of thing because you think the public resentment is not big enough, right? I know what I'm doing. I don't need you to point me out. Get out of here, you shield bug. General Ross's attitude was very tough. The escorts beside him all raised their guns and aimed at Phil Coulson and the agent he was carrying, as if they were going to expel Phil Coulson and the SHIELD agent. You won't end well if you do this. Phil Coulson took a deep look at Ross and retreated directly with the agents. He knew that he could not stop the crazy Ross, so he immediately started reporting after going out, trying to get the Security Council to intervene in this incident. We can't stop him. Nick Fury was also frightened by Rose's madness. However, he knew very well how much real power Ross had. Even if the Security Council issued an order, the other party would probably never comply. This guy, I'm afraid his mentality has been broken by Hulk. Where's that superpower you mentioned? Phil Coulson urged. She's getting ready to go. Nick Fury looked at Kayla not far away, sat down and took a deep breath, and then prepared to set off. He was not sure whether Kayla could subdue Hulk. After all, Hulk's destructive power is too strong. It's probably too late. Phil Coulson looked up not far away. A fighter jet carrying a nuclear warhead approaches. His expression couldn't help but be a little bitter. Oh my God, he destroyed at least hundreds of tanks. And armored vehicles. Lots of planes crashed too. What kind of monster is this? Reporters are still tracking Hulk. They are far apart. But we also saw how powerful Hulk is in combat. The host Jessica was simply stunned. She just felt that her palms and backs were all sweaty. Maybe the end of the world was going to happen like this. Where's Iron Man? Where's Spider-Man? The superheroes of New York. Can they stop this tragedy? Our military is simply vulnerable to such a monster. Jessica began her appeal to the camera. She is considered a sensible person and knows the Marvel truth that only superheroes can deal with super monsters. Definitely, this host is obviously still unaware of the fact that ordinary superheroes are simply vulnerable to Hulk. One thing Iron Man Tony knows very well. The big green guy, I know he's exaggerating, but to such an extent, my weapons probably won't have any effect. Tony made a judgment call. At the same time, he also started to equip his new armor. Although he knew it would be useless if he went there, he still needed to save the people there. After all, he is Iron Man. Oh my gosh, this big guy. I feel like I'm going to be slapped to death. Spider-Man Peter Parker also saw the report. He also wants to go. However, it seems that I won't be able to get there after taking the bus. Spider-Gwen is also having the same trouble. Chu Mu seems to be in that place. Gwen and Chu Mu have been chatting frequently on the phone recently. Therefore, she is also very knowledgeable about Chu Mu's whereabouts. Seeing that the accident occurred at MIT, she couldn't help but worry about Chu Mu for a moment. But, after thinking about Chu Mu's previous combat prowess, this worry slowly dissipated. She just wondered why Chu Mu didn't take action yet. Could it be that, even he can't defeat this kind of monster? Gwen became a little worried again. In her opinion, Chu Mu is indeed ridiculously strong. But Hulk is not weak either. The entire army is strong and the destructive power is astonishing. I don't know how such a monster was created. Are these troops crazy? What do they want to do? Reporters saw the most advanced fighter jets appear with a large number of missiles. They immediately received an order from the military asking them to leave. Although reporters are people who don't like to take orders, when it comes to missiles, they don't know how powerful the missiles the military will use. Therefore, for the sake of life, the reporters still hurriedly asked their helicopters to leave quickly. They didn't know whether the missile could kill Hulk, but it would definitely be able to kill them. Until what the military is going to do, reporters are still very precious about their own lives. Therefore, Soon the helicopters owned by the media were evacuated to the location designated by the military, which was already far away. Such a range. The reporters couldn't help but think too much. Nuclear bomb. A reporter started speculating in front of the camera. The people watching in front of the TV were in an uproar and felt that this guess was very possible. You've created a monster and you can't clean it out, so why don't you think about using nuclear bombs? What they're blowing up is the land that belongs to our people. That's right. What to do about nuclear radiation? These tax thieves. Our country is crazy. The public has great opinions. General Ross's phone also rang one after another. But he didn't choose to answer the phone. Instead, he continued to watch his fighter jets arrive at the battlefield carrying nuclear bombs. General Ross knew that the callers were trying to persuade him. But what I decide will never change. General Ross gave the order. The fighter pilot then aimed in Hulk's direction. The launch button was pressed. How powerful is a nuclear bomb? That is mankind's most powerful means of warfare today. It is a terrifying weapon capable of leveling a city. Within a millionth of a second after the nuclear bomb explodes, the huge energy released by the nuclear reaction can instantly heat the center of the explosion to hundreds of millions of degrees Celsius, which is equivalent to the power of a supernova explosion in the universe. I saw, as the nuke hits the Hulk. A terrible explosion happened suddenly. Flames shot into the sky. It directly set off a huge mushroom cloud. Although the yield of this nuclear bomb is not large, it also has the power of a nuclear bomb. The extremely strong shockwave spread in all directions, and even the launched fighter jets immediately fled away with all their strength. But it was still shaken violently by the air waves, and almost crashed. Mainly because Ross was too close when he gave the order. Not to mention the fighter jets that launched nuclear bombs, even the media helicopters that had long fled away were all swaying in midair due to air waves. My lord, Jessica from the New York TV station was completely speechless. Same as her, almost all reporters, including the audience in front of the TV. Looking at the rising mushroom cloud and feeling the terrifying power from the nuclear bomb, everyone fell into a shocked silence. They are angry about the madness of the military. Now, I feel shuddering fear for this most powerful weapon of mankind. That monster is absolutely dead. Someone murmured. Such thoughts. It began to rise in the brains of almost everyone. No matter how powerful Hulk is, in their eyes, he is still flesh and blood. In front of the nuclear bomb. It's about a world where everyone is equal. No matter how powerful the flesh and blood is. How could it withstand such a horrific explosion? Fight me, ha! General Ross also felt that the matter was finally over. He was very satisfied with such an explosion. He felt that he could use such words to successfully save lives and property and eliminate the crisis to defend himself in the future, and perhaps his status could be saved. Banner, Banner. As Dr. Banner's girlfriend, Betty cried so hard that she burst into tears. However, her father turned a deaf ear to her cries. In General Ross's view, my daughter is simply mentally ill. Actually like that kind of monster. You will meet a better man, he is not worthy of you. General Ross spoke to Betty, and he had already begun to prepare personnel to evacuate this temporary command post. You don't understand at all. You don't understand the feelings between us. Betty was speechless and in pain, roaring hysterically at Ross. However, she couldn't resist General Ross's soldiers at all. He was taken directly into an armored vehicle. So, there's no need for Supergirl to show up. Phil Coulson was also shocked by the nuclear explosion. After he came to his senses, he spoke hoarsely on the communication channel. I've already called her back. Nick Fury also felt that Hulk was definitely doomed, so he sent a message to Kayla, who was halfway through the flight. It's over now, you don't need me to take action. Kayla was flying above the clouds and was almost there when she received another communication from Nick Fury. How to say, she felt that it would be fine if the matter was resolved, and the trip was in vain. Ever since, he turned around and flew back towards SHIELD's aircraft carrier. It can be said, almost everyone thinks Hulk is finished. But it's true. Interesting, Hulk's body is not only exposed to gamma-ray radiation, but there is also a high-level force surging. Chu Mu was sitting in the bus. Already followed the students to a safe location. Students and professors took refuge in the open space, while he sat on the top of a building and watched what was happening in the suburbs. Although at the moment of the nuclear explosion, he temporarily withdrew his gaze because he did not want to blind his eyes. But, after the nuclear explosion, he also looked over again for the first time. Then, he saw Hulk, although he was covered in wounds from the nuclear explosion and was dying. But, there is a high-dimensional power in Hulk's body, protecting Hulk's life. This allowed Hulk to survive despite being seriously injured. Weakness is weakness. Powerful body cells. He is also rapidly repairing Hulk's body. All we can say is that it won't be long before Hulk is able to jump around full of energy again. No, General Ross took care of things. The fighter jets flew away, people all over the country felt that the matter was over, and Hulk was resurrected with full health. Roar. The seemingly silent suburb once again let out a terrifying roar, resounding through the sky. In the mushroom cloud where the nuclear explosion has not dissipated, I saw a huge figure of more than 20 meters jumping out of it, leaping into the sky, chasing the armed fighter that launched the nuclear bomb. After Hulk got bigger again, he jumped out for a long time. Only then did the reporters who were still doing the live broadcast and the viewers in front of the TV react. That monster is not dead. Oh my God, how could he still be alive? There's nothing wrong with him. That's a nuclear bomb. A nuclear bomb. What kind of monster is this? My eyes are right. How is this possible? It's not just the viewers in front of the TV who are going crazy. The reporters screamed. Even Child's Nick Fury's face changed drastically when he saw it, and he took a deep breath, his eyes filled with extreme dismay. This year, guys who are not afraid of nuclear bombs are everywhere. Destroy this nonsense world. Nick Fury started to mess with nonstop. What? General Ross, who got the news. He also looked horrified. Even nuclear bombs can't deal with that monster. He just felt very ridiculous. Do you know what you are talking about? General Ross roared loudly at the fighter pilot on the other end of the communicator. He was unwilling to accept this fact that frightened him. I definitely know that monster is behind me now. The fighter pilot looked at the huge figure approaching him on the ground. His face was also extremely pale, full of fear and fear. No one can feel the power of nuclear bombs more intuitively than him, the launcher. But such a powerful attack could not destroy the monster on the ground. Fighter pilots have a hard time imagining what else to do against such life. General, I really hope you can see, what I see now is too exaggerated. He has been chasing me. The fighter pilot's voice could not hide the fear and terror. Joke. His plane is already a supersonic fighter, but the monsters on the ground are still chasing after him. This is obviously hatred towards him, the nuclear bomb launcher. Stay shocked. Give him another shot. General Ross felt that Hulk might have been seriously injured, and immediately issued a new order. No way. Order from above. Fighter pilots couldn't be more scared. The plane also had to be turned around. He began to aim at Hulk on the ground, but what he didn't expect was that Hulk jumped up directly after he turned around. Soaring straight into the sky. He directly grabbed the fighter jet in the sky. Although it was the most advanced fighter jet, the material still couldn't withstand Hulk's power. The fighter begins to get squashed. The pilot inside listened to the frantic sirens coming from the fighter jets. He was extremely frightened and panicked. Because of this, he suddenly failed to control his hands and launched the second nuclear bomb that had not yet been aimed. Looking at the direction in which the nuclear bomb flew out, at the last moment of his life, the driver's expression became even more horrified. It's a bustling urban area. PFF. Hulk didn't know whether it was a premonition or a simple subconscious behavior at the tail of the structure loaded with nuclear bombs and the long flame jet. He wants to catch the missile flying towards the city. But it was too late, as the accelerating nuclear warhead grazed his palm and flew away. Hulk grabbed the fighter jet and fell from the clouds. No, General Ross is at headquarters. The direction in which the nuclear bomb was aimed was also detected. For the first time, he showed a horrified expression. If this nuclear bomb lands in a populated area of the city, it will definitely be a disaster that no one can clean up. By the time, not only can his position be lost, but his whole family may also be used to quell public anger. This is obviously not what General Ross wants to see. Intercept it. Intercept it quickly. He quickly issued orders to other fighters that were still nearby. However, because they were about to launch a nuclear warhead at Hulk, those fighter jets had already flown a long distance away, and it would be impossible for them to intercept the nuclear bomb in a short while. What are Ross's people doing? He is committing a crime. He is carrying out a terrorist attack. S.H.I.E.L.D. also detected the flight trajectory of the nuclear bomb immediately. Nick Fury's coal-like face has also turned a bit pale. He quickly requested satellite weapons to intercept the nuclear bomb. Only, as the nuclear bomb's tail flame becomes more and more powerful, the fuel propulsion speed becomes faster and faster, and the satellite weapon cannot lock onto this high-speed nuclear bomb at all. In addition, the target of the nuclear bomb is not far away. Nick Fury closed his eyes in pain, feeling that a tragedy was inevitable. Kayla, can you hear me? We need you to subdue that monster again. Something happened and our nuclear bombs were not able to kill him. Nick Fury can only minimize the damage, since a nuclear bomb attack is inevitable. Then at least another threat must be removed. Therefore, he contacted Kayla again. Why didn't you tell me earlier? Kayla landed on the deck of the super aircraft carrier, and then received the communication from Nick Fury in the control room not far away. She still didn't know about the nuclear bomb attack, but she felt a little speechless at Nick Fury's backbiting. She couldn't help but wonder if this was really a strict and complete organization. She complained in her heart, but Supergirl rose to the sky again. At the same time, Chu Mu was enjoying herself watching a show. Then, he discovered that the out-of-control nuclear bomb was aimed in his direction. I don't want to be bombed again. Chu Mu just thought. To fly away. Sir, we just discussed it. Hello. You were right. Someone must stand up and correct the direction of biological research. The monster created by the military in the school is a warning. You are right, and we believe you have such feelings. Therefore, we are willing to join your umbrella company and invest our lives and lifetime efforts for biological research that truly serves humanity. At this time, a well-known biology professor walked up to the rooftop with more than a dozen of his doctoral students and shouted sincerely to Chu Mu, who was sitting on the edge of the last stage. These people probably had some insights when they took refuge just now. I thought of Chu Mu's speech again. So, that's why we made this decision. They didn't know that the area they were in was about to be attacked by a nuclear bomb. At the same time, they didn't know that if they were one step later, Chu Mu would have flown away. It can only be said that fate is such a coincidence sometimes. Chu Mu glanced back. Those teachers and students whose life and death had nothing to do with him. At this moment, it looks like it has become his personal property, so. I'm glad you think so. Let me talk to you later about the specific situation. Chu Mu smiled happily at the teachers and students. Immediately, he turned around and flew towards the nuclear bomb whose warhead was already visible. Now, let me solve a little trouble first. Private property or something. It must be protected. Don't call him an ancestor. Now, Chu Mu thinks he is Superman. Love without border. Yes, love without border. For the sake of the people. Decisively throw yourself towards the extremely dangerous nuclear bomb. Chu Mu was almost moved to tears by himself. He soared into the sky and flew towards the nuclear bomb. This scene directly dumbfounded all the teachers and students who came to surrender. Be good. Why fly into the sky at the slightest disagreement? Can you respect the gravity of the Earth? Newton's coffin board can't hold it down. All the scientists were stunned by Chu Mu soaring into the sky. They thought that Chu Mu, like them, was a scientist with both knowledge and ethics. At best, he is just a few 100 million points richer than them. Who would have thought? Something that subverted our three views happened in an instant. Superman. He is Superman. One student suddenly exclaimed in the quiet and weird atmosphere. When he looked at Chu Mu's figure, he started playing those supernatural videos on YouTube. Not only people with a salary of only 3,000 like to watch it, but scientists like them also like to watch similar news. At the moment he connected Chu Mu's figure with Superman's video. What? The professor who didn't know much about the internet was a little confused. But, the young students all responded. Oh my god, is Mr. Chu Mu Superman? A female student covered her mouth in shock. Her eyes were full of disbelief. Are you talking about the recently popular Superman? Oh my god. So Superman is Mr. Chu Mu. Has he already made research results in human body modification? Some students who were extremely obsessed with academics and science also exclaimed. They just felt that Chu Mu must already have very mature human strengthening technology. Otherwise, a capitalist, how could it be used on myself? After we join Mr. Chu Mu's company, will we be able to enter this project? Oh my god, look at how fast Mr. Chu Mu flies. This is the true evolution of humans. We really made the right choice. This is the perfect evolution. This is the direction and results that biological research should have. The students were all excited. Although the professor didn't understand the topic of Superman, as an expert in the field of biological research, he became excited when he mentioned human body strengthening agents. Such results. Such results. The professor was so excited that he almost had Parkinson's disease. At this time, some students saw a missile in the direction Chu Mu flew over. Then, oh my god, the military wanted to silence us. They actually launched missiles at us. The student who saw the missile suddenly had a conspiracy theory. Suddenly, his words attracted the attention of most students. The trouble Mr. Chu Mu said he wanted to deal with was to intercept the military's missiles. Oh my god, how dare Guokang treat us like this? Can Mr. Chu Mu do it? It's a missile. I cried to death. It was so touching. Mr. Chu Mu is indeed a noble man. He risked his life for our safety. He's a superhero too. All of a sudden, the admiration students have for Chu Mu. It rose to an unspeakable level. How to put it, although Chu Mu's identity has been exposed, it will definitely be exposed sooner or later. Chu Mu didn't care much. In fact, being able to increase the goodwill of these promising scientists in front of them, these 10 exposures are obviously very good benefits for him. Ross is indeed a lunatic. After Chu Mu approached, he also discovered that although the yield of this nuclear bomb was not large, it was not small. He quickly changed the direction of flight while holding the nuclear bomb. It flew up towards the atmosphere. Although Chu Mu has no way to reach outer space. However, he can still bring the nuclear bomb to an area close to outer space and detonate it in an area that will not affect the ground too much. Oh my god, Mr. Chu Mu is going to sacrifice himself for us. Some students saw Chu Mu carrying a nuclear bomb and flying straight towards the sky. A lot of ideas suddenly appeared in her mind. This female student's eyes were moist. As she exclaimed, many students also raised their heads, feeling that Chu Mu's back was full of tragedy, and they were all moved. All right, Chu Mu needs them to be so moved. And the media. The media also focused on the direction in which the nuclear bomb was flying. Therefore, their remote cameras also accurately captured Chu Mu's heroic behavior. Oh my god, what is that? That's a person. Jessica from the New York TV station was the most diligent reporter. She brought her team the closest, and the footage captured by the camera was relatively clear. Superman. It's him. Superman. There's absolutely nothing wrong. The Superman that everyone has been calling for recently. He is the only one who has such flight ability. God, I didn't expect that in such a critical moment, it was not Iron Man or Spider-Man who saved countless people, but this highly controversial Superman. Just before the nuclear bomb was about to hit. Before a tragic accident happened. Superman appears. What is he going to do? Is he going to fly into space with a nuclear bomb? Oh my god. Jessica looked shocked and shouted loudly with an emotional tone. To save innocent citizens. To help the military clean up the mess. Superman appears. He wants to take the nuclear bomb away from the city. The audience in front of the TV, I didn't do anything to show off, I was really shocked by this spirit. I believe that we no longer need to discuss whether Superman is good or bad. He has the noble spirit of sacrificing himself to protect mankind. Quote. This is the real superhero. Jessica wanted the cameraman to take a close-up of Chu Mu, but Chu Mu was too fast to capture. They could only see the blurry figure as always. However, at the moment, Superman, who once made many people feel uneasy, made all the audience feel a sense of resolute determination and made people feel that noble moral character. Many people were in tears, feeling guilty that they had ever suspected Superman. Gwen was probably the only person who recognized the blurry figure. She looked at the live broadcast on the TV with a horrified expression of grief. Although Gwen was also moved by Chu Mu's sacrificial spirit, she did not want to see so many innocent citizens die in Fang's attack. But Gwen didn't want the person to be sacrificed to be Chu Mu. It's high enough. Let go now. Leave now. Gwen didn't think Chu Mu could survive the force of a nuclear blast. She yelled desperately to the TV series, constantly praying for Chu Mu. At this moment, an explosion of huge amounts of sound resounded through every house. Countless people watching the live broadcast saw huge amounts of mushroom clouds soaring in the sky. A vacuum-like area was exploded. No, Gwen burst into tears. The audiences who were moved by Chu Mu also shed tears one by one. Such a selfless and fearless superhero sacrificed his life for humanity. Too many people were moved. It's all the military. It's all the military who killed Superman. The military. Superman. What a superhero. The military must be held responsible for this. The crowd was excited. It was really exciting. Especially those students who are determined to follow Chu Mu, make outstanding achievements in biological research, and correct the wrong path of biological research in the world. Everyone was crying. They knew Chu Mu was here to save them. Woo! The female students all burst into tears, and the male students also had red eyes. They just felt that they had met a selfless and just boss. But, not hired yet. The boss sacrificed his life to save them. The military, many people have uncontrollable anger towards the military. Can it really resist a nuclear bomb? The only audience who has doubts about Chu Mu's life and death. Maybe it's Nick Fury. As for Kayla, she didn't know about the nuclear bomb, still flying over the Pacific. Yes, SHIELD's aircraft carrier has recently transferred to the Pacific Ocean. It shouldn't be possible. Beside, one agent didn't believe Kayla's original lies at all. How can a Kryptonian survive a nuclear bomb? What a joke. Nick Fury didn't answer the call, he stared at the monitor screen. The next second, even though I had already been fully mentally prepared. But he still couldn't help but gasp. It is as expected. Nick Fury exclaimed in shock. I saw, not long after the explosion in the sky, a figure emerged from the mushroom cloud. It was Chu Mu who was unharmed. Not even the clothes were damaged. Nick Fury just thinks it's very unscientific. Like him, there are tens of millions of viewers across the country who think it is unscientific. However, most of them cheered after being shocked. Since there is already a Hulk who survived being bombed by a nuclear bomb, it is not so difficult for everyone to accept that Chu Mu can come out of the nuclear explosion. Definitely, there will definitely still be some horror in the thriller. But, for superheroes, everyone wants the other person to be strong enough. He came out. He survived. Superman came out of the nuclear explosion. Oh my God, his hairstyle wasn't even damaged. This is Superman. Jessica from the New York TV station screamed at the top of her lungs. The voice was excited and excited. She grabbed the cameraman's camera. Focusing on Chu Mu who flew out of the nuclear explosion, I have to say that this woman's photography skills are also very good. I saw, on a New York TV station, tens of millions of viewers. Everyone saw Chu Mu suspended in midair, overlooking the earth, with a calm expression and a majesty that made people feel awe. Behind him, the noise caused by the nuclear explosion has not been completely extinguished. The blazing flames and mushroom clouds rolled behind, but Chu Mu didn't even look back. It's so powerful, just like a god. This moment. Countless spectators, they all felt indescribable emotions. The figure stood tall in the clouds, and with the background, they felt a terrifying oppression. At the same time, it also brings them an endless sense of security. This, maybe he is the god on earth. Jessica, the host of the New York TV station, was so inspired that she whispered through the live broadcast of the TV station. It reached the ears of thousands of households. God on earth, and for a moment, countless viewers couldn't help but feel strong approval of this evaluation. If the man who walked out of the nuclear explosion was not a god, what else could it be? Gwen in front of the TV was also crying with joy. Looking at Chu Mu who looked like a god coming to the world in the screen, her eyes became more and more adoring. This is the man I want to sleep with. Do not misunderstand. This is not what Gwen preaches. But, sky in Los Angeles. Holding his new best friend Carrie in his arms, he rocked Carrie and announced loudly and excitedly. Because her attention was on the TV, Sky didn't notice. Next to him, his best friend Carrie looks a little too weird. Carrie's eyes were also fixed on the TV screen, only looking at Chu Mu inside. She didn't know why, she was actually drooling. Standing on the rooftop closest to Chu Mu, all the student doctors felt the terrifying shockwave of the nuclear explosion. Even though they are far apart, they were almost thrown away. But Chu Mu came out of the nuclear explosion intact. This scene once again shocked these students and professors who were knowledgeable in biology. Such perfection, his physical strength has probably exceeded the limits of the human body, reaching a level beyond our imagination. The professor of biology only felt that the world was so dreamy. And as a student, those young people didn't think so much, even though they had a judgment and estimate about Chu Mu's physical fitness that they couldn't believe. But these people are more, having a star-chasing performance. Hurry up and take a photo. Mr. Chu Mu is so handsome. I will not believe in Jesus. I will not believe in God. I have changed my belief in Mr. Chu. Oh my God, he doesn't even mess up his hair. This must be a biological force field. A biological force field that only exists in imagination. Compared to those ordinary groupies, these knowledgeable top students naturally have the kind of discernment that ordinary star chasers don't have. Some people can actually tell that Chu Mu's performance involves biological force fields. Whether this is or not is just a random guess. It can still be shown that these students have real materials. Some students excitedly took pictures of Chu Mu's heroic act just now. Some students also filmed the moment when Chu Mu flew out of the nuclear explosion. They feel, as long as these videos are uploaded to YouTube or Twitter, they will definitely cause an uproar and directly become the most popular videos. Mr. Chu Mu may not want his identity disclosed, so it is better that we don't cause trouble for Mr. Chu Mu. Have to say, these students are really talented. He must have become a fan of Chu Mu. I will also think about Chu Mu. Yes, everyone knows the situation in the military. If they want to attack Mr. Chu Mu, those guys will not be reasonable. Mr. Chu Mu cannot be taken away and sliced by them. As more and more people agree. Everyone also chose not to upload the video, and some of them reluctantly deleted the video directly. Definitely, most people still feel they want to preserve it. Even if you don't upload it to the internet, it's a good choice to keep it for your own appreciation and memory in the future. Most of the people who have this idea are female students. How can I say that they may also unlock other special functions of these videos? Can't drive. In fact, although they are more rational and think more comprehensively, it does not mean that Chu Mu's identity can really be hidden. After all, Chu Mu was suspended in midair for a while. Jessica was also filming remotely with a camera. Naturally, some people saw Chu Mu's approximate appearance. Although because of his low profile in the past, few people connected him with the New York Times. However, with the subsequent fermentation and people's high-definition processing of images, Chu's identity will definitely be exposed by then. After all, even if Chu Mu is not as popular as Stark, he is still a big plutocrat in New York. Famous people on Forbes list. It is impossible to avoid people's human flesh, unless you find the Ancient One and cast the Rubik's Cube that makes people around the world forget something. Chu Mu obviously wouldn't want to do such a thing. He didn't think there was anything wrong with the exposure, it was just that the exposure was slightly out of the plan. I found this guy. Chu Mu was suspended in midair, not to show off or to let reporters take pictures of him, but to look for General Ross on the Earth. One thing is that the reason why things developed like this is that Chu Mu feels that it has something to do with this guy. Although he didn't care about what he was forced to expose. But it doesn't mean General Ross should not have to pay the price for what he did. Don't say anything else. This disaster has affected so many people. As a just Superman, Chu Mu must practice justice. He knows that if General Ross runs away this time, this guy will definitely not suffer anything. Serious accusations will only result in a period of suspension. This is obviously unfair to those who suffered. Definitely. The most important thing is unfair to Chu Mu. He will feel resentful in his heart, so the best solution is to make Rose deserve it. Superman is moving. Where is he going? Photographed by reporters. Chu Mu fell to the earth like a human cannon. Probably the reporters could only take so many photos. Being in a high-altitude helicopter, they had no time to follow Chu Mu's movements. After all, there is another Hulk wreaking havoc in the suburbs, approaching the city. Reporters still need to report on Hulk in the sky. Definitely. Some reporters also contacted people on the ground, but they probably couldn't find Chu Mu's location for a while. After he locked the location of General Ross, he fell directly in front of the evacuating army. Here, we have reached the edge of the other side of the city. Boom. Chu Mu landed. Dust flies. In front of him were a large number of tanks and armored vehicles. However, when he came out of the sitting room, he didn't take these armed forces seriously at all. There is an enemy attack. Another reformer. He's the Superman just now. He should be good, right? The soldiers, who had been nervous about Hulk for a long time, were all shocked. Various weapons and gun barrels were pointed in Chu Mu's direction. Where is Rose? Chu Mu turned a blind eye to the cannon barrels and firearms. Although he seemed to be asking, his eyes had already been locked on an armored vehicle. Superman. Ross stepped out of the armored vehicle. He was followed by a large group of guards. He looked at Chu Mu in front of him, his eyes flickering slightly. There is a trace of greed and desire hidden, which is well hidden. It can be said that compared to Hulk, Ross wants to get Chu Mu, a seemingly more perfect strengthening human being. Hulk is hot-tempered and irritable, and is not easy to control at all. Far less powerful than Superman, who looks equally powerful. I didn't expect you to be so young and a little kid, haha. Ross didn't feel the slightest fear towards Chu Mu. I don't know if it was the armed forces around him that gave him the courage. Are you ready to pay the price? Chu Mu doesn't want to talk too much to the general of this great free country. True, Ross is a real power figure. But it doesn't make any sense to Chu Mu. He doesn't need Rose's influence in the military, and he doesn't want to interact with such a disgusting guy, so he has already thought about Rose's ending. I don't know what you are talking about. We are trying our best to resist the destruction of evil monsters. There are heavy casualties. You should not stop in front of us. General Ross definitely has a thick skin. He was definitely annoyed with Chu Mu's attitude, and wanted to capture Chu Mu. However, now that his men's power was not much left, he was not sure that the information he had obtained would capture Chu Mu, who had the same passion for Chu Mu. A Superman with full weapon resistance. The key is, there are also huge amounts of threats like Hulk. Ross's brain was spinning rapidly, and he came up with an idea that he thought killed two birds with one stone, which was to trick Mr. Chu Mu into dealing with Hulk. Oh, is that so? Chu Mu looked confused. Definitely so. General Ross immediately spoke uprightly, without mentioning how Hulk appeared or the research he planned to conduct on Hulk. Since you have great power, you should go find trouble with Hulk. Isn't saving people what you should do? What are you doing here to intercept our convoy? Ross shouted to Chu Mu questioned. We also need to gather bases and mobilize more manpower to intercept the monster's destruction. I don't know how much truth or falsehood there is in this sentence. Anyway, if General Ross can survive in the great free country, he must have some acting skills. He looked impassioned, but actually what he wanted was to trick Chu Mu into fighting Hulk. Then, it would be best to see a scene where Chu Mu and Hulk fight with both sides injured. In that case, he may be able to reap the benefits by then. I have to say that General Ross is indeed good enough. Not thinking at all about Chu Mu's favor that saved his career. To know, if Chu Mu had not intercepted the nuclear bomb, it's not just a matter of his career being over. Maybe the whole family, they would all be pushed out and killed to appease the public anger, facing Chu Mu, who was equivalent to saving his whole family. He actually wanted to capture Chu Mu for research. It can be said that Ross was so ruthless and ruthless at all. Inferior to any villain. Oh, is that so? It seems that you think you are very smart and think that I am just a fool and will be fooled by your few words. Chu Mu simply sneered. What I am doing now is actually saving people. Chu Mu definitely knew Ross's wishful thinking, and he showed a bright smile to Ross and the soldiers. Maybe you think that since you are a general, you can speak to me so unscrupulously, but what I want to tell you is that you are wrong. It's still totally wrong. Before Rose could understand the meaning of his words. Zzz. Chu Mu's eyes suddenly turned scarlet. Next moment, terrifying rays spurted out directly. In Chu Mu's brilliant smile, the terrifying energy illuminates everything around her. It also illuminated the horrified face of Rose, who was the target. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.